world can hear us. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Red Ned Show, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon. I am your host, Jay Edgar, and in the continued absence of our wonderful co-host, Elaine, I am joined by friend of the show, and I think this is your first time into the podcast space. I know you've been on various other streams for us before, but I'm joined by friend of the show, Saint. Saint, welcome to the Red Ned Show.
How's everybody doing? Yeah, I have made a couple of appearances on charity streams, a couple different charity streams, I believe, and then I have made a long time ago. Me and Joan did a drunk stream together. That was, I think we did 6 or 7 hours on that or something like that. That was a long one.
Oh, geez, that's quite the time. But
yeah. He and I talked for a long time. We covered a whole range of different topics on that one. But yeah. Third time on your show, but officially on the podcast is my first time.
Yeah. Did we get shut down already? Hold on a sec. I gotta go check on something here. Because all of our viewership dropped to 0 for just a second.
Huh.
I have no idea what's going on here. Let's, well, I guess we'll figure it out.
Stream's still up on my computer.
Well, we'll figure it out as it goes here, but we've got a bunch of news to get to today, and hopefully we'll see what's going on here. You've looked over the document, I'm guessing. You've seen everything that we've got going on here, and there is quite a bit.
Oh yeah. This is gonna be a long one.
Well, let's go over a bit of what we're gonna do here, and then we'll see what it is that you want to tell the world about yourself here. The coronavirus has reared its ugly head again, and we possibly are seeing something that's going down with Southwest. So that's been breaking news today here. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. Plus, Candace Cameron Bure has decided to weigh in on what she has to say here. And Dr. Fauci as well is weighing in on what's happening with Halloween. So we'll talk a bit about that. The debt ceiling crisis is averted. It is over. It's done. Well, at least for now, until December. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on there, how we got to this point, and some of the details onto the bill. Speaking of budgetary stuff, we've also got to talk a little bit about the continued attacks on Kyrsten Sinema and the numbers that are shifting on the reconciliation bill. And I got a little bit more video for us to watch here, talking about Mr. Biden's Michigan trip this past week and the welcome that he got there. Let's go, Brandon. Breaking news as we were just getting off of the Red Ned Show last week, but there was a second Texas shooting this week, and we'll talk a bit about that. Plus, some of the details about the release of the suspected shooter and some of the comparisons people are making with an upcoming trial that we're going to be seeing as well. We've actually got 7 main topics. I'm usually done by this point with the 4th main topic, but we do have some more here. The jobs numbers are dismal for the government, so we'll talk about the unemployment and the filled jobs report for the week. The Facebook whistleblower, as named, she is out there. She has been seen by the world, and everybody knows who she is. But, I think this one kind of glows, so we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. And the DOJ is possibly going to be using the FBI to scare away parents from the school board meeting. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on there and what this means for everything else. Plus, I'm going to wrap up the show here with a little bit of surprise stupidity. I found one that was so stupid I had to share, which I can manage to do every week, but I found one so stupid that I had to share. And, with a little bit of military background with you, I think you're going to appreciate this one all the better, too. So it's going to be all this and more over on the Red Ned Show. Thank you guys for tuning in over on YouTube, DLive, Twitch, Facebook as well. No more Trovo, no more Periscope, but we are on all these other platforms here. We're supposedly on Twitter, too, but I don't know how to see it or where to find it. So if you can find it,
Twitter anymore. I don't go on Twitter anymore, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I have no idea. I've tried to find it, but I can't find it anywhere. But that's what we're seeing up off of this here. So, since this is your first official podcast appearance, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you want the people to know about you.
Well, first and foremost, my expertise or the job that I do is over-the-road truck driving, so long haul. Go all over the lower 48 states, save for 3, California, Minnesota, and New York. And that's pretty much it. You said you're surprised you find, more stupid to show on the show. Traveling around, no, that doesn't surprise me. I see it every single day. So
Yeah, I'm sure that you do.
so, and then a little bit of a foil to the normal guests that Ed has on. Pure constitutionalist. I am a government type. I am somewhat pro-Fed, not pro this government, but somewhat pro-Fed, pro-government, constitutionalist. Not a libertarian, not an anarchist, not super right wing either. Just pretty much just a easygoing constitutionalist guy. So,
Well,
and that's pretty much it.
it does take all types. So, yeah, I think it's about time for us to get into the news, though, unless you have something else here, because we've got a lot. I mean, we had a long lightning round, and then we've got 7 main topics to get to, and we will take live chat in between topics. So, chat away amongst yourselves here. If you have any questions for us, let us know here. But yeah, I mean, it's not going to be full on all the way through this. I do see. We have some people joining us already. We've got the Breakdown with Birkenhoff. Helton is here on YouTube and DLive. Katie Z has joined us as well. So come back in here and get your chat in, and we will go from there. But we've got to start here with a little bit of lightning round for us today. Some catch up, some news stories from the past, some small stuff, and some video. So let's start off with it. And the first thing that I want to do is, of course, wish you a happy Indigenous Peoples Day. From the USA Today, Biden becomes the first president to mark Indigenous Peoples Day with presidential proclamation. According to the AP, President Biden on Friday issued the first ever presidential proclamation of Indigenous Peoples Day, lending the most significant boost yet to efforts to refocus the federal holiday celebrating Christopher Columbus towards an appreciation of Native peoples. Go ahead.
It's just, it's purely symbolic. It's a PR stunt. That's all it is. That's all it ever is with politicians when it comes to these kinds of things. It's been that way since the first nonsense holiday of Labor Day was ever declared. It's all over the place. This is all it ever is. So I don't really have much to say on it other than that. It's just a PR stunt. That's all it is. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. So.
Well, apparently the Associated Press thought it was notable to talk about, and they even distributed it over to USA Today.
They think ice cream flavors are notable to talk about as well, so.
A little bit of an update on George Floyd this week. George Floyd's statue vandalized in New York City's Union Square 2 days after unveiling. We're reading here from The Hill. A statue of George Floyd in New York City's Union Square was vandalized on Sunday, 2 days after it was unveiled, first as a part of an exhibition that also features busts of John Lewis and Breonna Taylor. A man was captured on video footage Sunday hurling paint at the bust of Floyd at around 10 a.m. before leaving the scene, according to the Associated Press. Citing police, the statues of Taylor and Lewis were reportedly left unharmed. And there is the picture of the bronzed bust statue with the paint all over it. And we do have video of this as well. It's not queued up like I thought it was going to be. So let's do a little bit of on-air production. And go and find that. I know that they put it in here. They're talking about, oh yeah, it's on video. This brought Trump Republicans out this morning. Maybe we won't find this. Because I think I'm going to about just come back out and say fucking screw this. Yeah, screw this. We're not going to do this one here. But yeah, that's it was a guy on a skateboard skating by and just tossed some paint up there. Broad daylight, middle of the day.
The thing is I did watch the video, and what it struck me as is just an edgelord Gen Zer running by and vandalizing the George Floyd statue. That's all I think it was, really. Just rolled up on his skateboard and threw paint at it and rolled off. It wasn't really I don't think it was, well, maybe it was malicious, but just struck me as edgelord Gen Z.
Yeah. I thought it was honestly a plant when I first saw it. I think it was just somebody that went in there to get the conversation going, and as the comment section in The Hill says, bring the Trump Republicans out.
Oh man, the George Floyd thing, that kills me. That kills me every single time. That whole story kills me.
St. George, hallowed be his name. Moving on here from the New York Post, Andrew Yang officially leaves Democrats and becomes an independent. Failed candidate for president and New York City Mayor Andrew Yang said on Monday that he has officially switched his political registration from Democrat to Independent, hoping to be able to be even more honest about both the system and the people in it. Yang, who first attracted attention by advocating for a universal basic income of $1,000 a month for all Americans, said he's been a Democrat his entire adult life and still has friends and colleagues in the party. And he quotes, "And yet I'm confident that no longer being a Democrat is the right thing," he wrote in a statement released on his Twitter page.
I don't know what you want me to say about this one, man. It's not going to help him. I don't know what he expects to get done by doing this. It's not going to help his chances winning a presidential election. It actually might help his chances if he were to run a state legislature seat. But other than that, it's not going to help him anywhere politically, at least in a federal election.
What about mayor of New York City?
The thing is that he's got enough star power that he might actually be able to pull it off, especially because he keeps his mouth shut on religion. I know he's not religious, but he keeps his mouth shut on it. And the evangelizing by the interim governor and the rhetoric by de Blasio has put the religious side of New York and New York City off quite a bit. So I think that he could pull quite a showing if he actually ran for mayor or governor in New York.
Well, we will see what happens there. From the Associated Press, a little bit of a technology news for you here. William Shatner will fly into space aboard Blue Origin rocket. Reading from the Associated Press, Captain Kirk is rocketing into space next week, boldly going where no other sci-fi stars have gone. Jeff Bezos' space travel company, Blue Origin, announced on Monday that Star Trek actor William Shatner will blast off from West Texas tomorrow. "Yes, it's true. I'm going to be a rocket man," the 90-year-old tweeted. No, wait. We got to read that in Shatner voice. "Yes, it's true. I'm going to be a rocket man. It's never too late to experience new things." Gone!
My God, Mr. Spock, we're going into space yet again. Oh my God. I know my dad had some choice words about this. He just said it's so pointless. It's so useless. I mean, he's 90. My dad. So good on him, I guess. I mean, cool. That's cool. It's cool. But it's whatever to me.
It's weird to me too, because he did have to take a physical to this, and at 90 years old, he's kind of a chunky fucker. At 90 years old, he
is. However, he doesn't look horrible for 90 years old. That's the thing.
No,
he doesn't look bad. As I've seen recent pictures of him, he does not look bad for 90 years old.
So, well, I guess he's going tomorrow, and we'll probably be talking about this on Wednesday morning Contemporary too. So, yeah, there we go. The captain is going back to space. A little bit of down news here for those of you on Twitch. You guys already probably know this here because you got notifications out the ass. Reading from Video Games Chronicle, the entirety of Twitch has reportedly been leaked. The user, an anonymous hacker, claims to have leaked the entirety of Twitch, including its source code and user payout information. The user posted a 125 gigabyte torrent link to 4chan on Wednesday, stating that the leak was intended to foster more disruption and competition in the online video streaming space because their community is a disgusting, toxic cesspool. VGC can verify that the files mentioned on 4chan are publicly available to download as described by the anonymous hacker. One anonymous company source told VGC that the leaked data is legitimate, including the source code for the Amazon-owned streaming platform. Internally, Twitch is aware of the breach, the source said, and believes the data was obtained as recently as Monday. "We have requested the comment from Twitch and will update the story when it replies." Now, I'm actually a little surprised that this is big news, except for the fact that, stream keys were leaked, and we also saw leaks of passwords and Hassan Piker's salary, which raised a few eyebrows off of this. But I was to the understanding that the Twitch source code was open source anyway, because I know Trovo and DLive are both built off of the same source code. But what have you seen on this?
I haven't seen much. Just I did see a few Twitter handles going off the rails on Hassan's salary and some of the salary of the other bread tubers who are on Twitch and things like that, as well as some of the hot tub streamers, quote unquote. Uh, the thing is I don't know much about Twitch. I had heard that it was supposed to be open source, so I don't really think that has much of an impact. I think the bigger impact out of this, or the thing that got the most online outrage, is the salaries uh,
Yeah.
for a lot of the streamers. That's what people were mostly focusing on, especially Hassan, because that guy can't stop putting his foot in his mouth, and he's a real acrobat, putting his foot in his mouth and his head up his ass at the same time.
Well, that's a mental image that I didn't really want off of here. Yeah, and he's making like 200 grand a month off of
Oh yeah,
Twitch.
it's insane. It is insane how much money that guy makes. And I know there was the big quote unquote controversy uh, about uh, his buying his house over in Beverly Hills, his $3.5 million house or whatever it was. I know there's a lot of controversy about that, but bread tuber's gonna bread tube.
Yeah.
Congratulations, socialists. These are your heroes.
What else do we have here? John Kerry made an interesting statement this week. Kerry says Biden not aware sub deal with Australia would irk France. Report. This is from the New York Post. United States climate envoy John Kerry, claimed Tuesday that President Biden had no idea the US UK Australia submarine deal would upset the French government and had not been aware of what transpired as Secretary of State Anthony Blinken visited Paris in an effort to ease the tensions. Kerry, Secretary of State in the Obama admin, was asked to interview in an interview on French television about the Biden admin forging the agreement with Australia, even though France already had a $40 billion deal with Australia for 12 submarines. And the quote was, President Biden asked me about it, and I told him and expressed, Kerry said. You told Biden that it was not the right, the interviewer said. He asked me, he said, what's the situation? I explained exactly. He had not been aware of that. He literally had not been aware of what had transpired, Kerry said in the Monday interview.
Geopolitics are irritating to me.
Yes.
This one had me particularly confused because I couldn't quite understand what the gripe was from France, what exactly their gripe was. Ultimately, from what I got, is that they believe it shifts the balance of power too heavily in favor of the Pacific, and it also, or Australia being a little bit more hardline on China, it threatens Chinese interests, which are also French interests, as well as any of France's interests in the South Pacific, including Vietnam and South Korea. So that's what I gathered from it, but it's kind of a non-story because we're going to do something to placate France, obviously, and usually that includes taxpayer money. So we'll see how that goes, but.
I guess I'm more concerned about the fact that the chief diplomat and the president of the United States has no idea what's going on in his own administration.
I did forget about
Especially,
that part.
especially when it comes to nuclear submarines. That kind of scares me a little bit.
Are you telling me you've lost track of a $9 billion vehicle? Oh, geez.
A little bit of news from your neck of the woods here. Arizona County Democrat Party boasts there is no border crisis. AZ GOP Senate candidate, good luck in 2022, gang. This comes from the Daily Wire. On Sunday, the Pima County Democratic Party in Arizona attacked GOP Senate candidate Blake Masters, saying there is no border crisis after Masters had pointed out the porous nature of the border wall by showing where it simply stopped, allowing drug cartels to monitor the border and instruct their agents when to cross. The Pima County Democrat Party tweeted, Hey, BG Masters, this is actually what our border region looks like. It's not some imaginary cosplay video game that you like to refer to as the Kill Zone. It is a diverse, beautiful, and thriving community, hashtag BorderTown. And it was accompanied by this video from Lakin Jordal, who is actually standing at the border wall. So let's have a listen to what that sounded like, and then I'll grab some comment from you.
Absolutely breathtaking day in late July. Monsoon rains have been falling on and off all day, and I thought it'd be a great day to come out to the end of the border wall near Nogales and check up on things now that construction has been officially paused. I think it's so important to remember and to remind people that this vastness, this peace, this beauty, this is the reality of most of the borderlands. Our 2,000-mile long border is full of wilderness areas, wildlife refuges, national park units. The majority of our border are scenes like this of peace and serenity and nature. And we still hear day after day from people like Governor Ducey here in Arizona that there is some sort of massive surge, some sort of crisis with people pouring into our country at every possible gap in the border wall. But that's just not true. And this here, this peace, this serenity, this is the reality of most of our beautiful border region.
Pause for bong rip. Go ahead.
Okay. Here's what people need to understand. So here's how the border works. Here's how border crossings and illegal I've lived in Tucson my whole life, Southern Arizona my whole life. I've hunted in or close to the border. Here's how it works. The cartels and illegal immigrants will cross at certain areas. Once this crossing has been noticed by the Border Patrol and Customs and ICE, once it's been noticed, they will move all of their agents or a vast majority of their agents to that area. They will flood that area with agents and they will make apprehensions. They'll make busts. That's what they'll do. Once the cartels and migrants figure out that all the Border Patrol agents and everybody's over there, they'll move somewhere else. They'll go to New Mexico or they'll go to California or they'll go to Texas. So that's how it works. So yes, it will slow down. Right now it's slow. And there's not a lot of Border Patrol agents here in Arizona. They're all in Texas and New Mexico right now because that's where all the crossings are happening. Here, it's been pretty quiet. My dad's been out quite a few times this last deer season, and he said it was pretty slow. Usually when we go out, especially in the mountains behind my house, we will see drug runners. We will see illegal immigrants. And on top of that, it's not just the people crossing that I have a problem. It's when I go out into the desert and I walk up on a watering hole and it's full of garbage. It's full of trash. It's full of backpacks and clothes and plastic water jugs and all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's more than just one problem. And I don't know what that guy's talking about, peace and serenity. I know what mountain he's on. There was two guys executed on that mountain not more than 2 years ago. So I don't know what stupid hippie. That's all I got to say about it. Stupid freaking hippies, man. And the thing is that there's they get a lot of help from this side and from guys like him. Guys exactly like him, they get a ton of help. But it's ridiculous. It's hard to convey to people just what it's like living down here on the border. And just living in Tucson my whole life, how much it's changed just in my lifetime, let alone my dad's lifetime. It's insane. It's insane that people like this exist. Crazy to me.
It's insane, but peace, brother, legalize it. Let's grab one here from Reuters. U.S. judge blocks enforcement of near total abortion ban in Texas. A federal judge on Wednesday temporarily blocked the near-total ban on abortion in Texas, the toughest such law in the U.S., in a challenge brought by President Joe Biden's administration after the U.S. Supreme Court had allowed it to go into effect. The action by U.S. District Judge Robert Pittman in Austin prevents the state from enforcing the Republican-backed law, which prohibits women from obtaining an abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy. While litigation over its legality continues, the case is part of a fierce legal battle over abortion access in the U.S., with numerous states pursuing restrictions.
Well, so what I have on this is because I've listened to another legal live stream, Biba and Barnes. They're very good legal analysts. And essentially what happened with this is when it went up to the federal level, the federal judges told them, we can't do anything about this because there's no government actor enforcing this law. It's private actors who will enforce this. And until a private actor does something, then we can't do anything about it. So you're going to have to handle this on the state level. So in that sense, it did work and they brought it back down to the state level. and down to the districts to try and take care of it there. However, again, I think it's going to be the same thing that the feds told them. Until somebody acts upon the law, you can't do anything about it. You can't sue the government because the government can't or isn't enforcing it. So that's as far as that goes. And I am curious to see where this goes from here, certainly. But I don't think they're going to be able to do anything about it in the short term. That's for sure.
Well, and it looks like they kind of went judge shopping a little bit too, so I'm not sure where that plays into it or if that plays into it at all. Sorry, I think my mouse is dying here. I don't know how that plays into it at all and where this is going to go, but yeah, I do think that they're going to find some sympathetic judge to put the block to this, but I guess we'll have to watch and see where it goes. I'd kind of like to see how the court proceedings go when this first gets sued too, actually.
Yeah, I am curious. That's for sure.
Well, here's another one here from our corporate tech overlords from The Verge. Google and YouTube will cut off ad money for climate change deniers. Which, by the way, means that I was probably smart to go into AdSense and say, take your ad money and shove it up your ass and don't run ads on my YouTube stuff. Google will no longer allow advertisers, publishers, and YouTube creators to monetize content that denies the existence of climate change. The company detailed in the changes in a support document on Thursday. Today, we're announcing a new monetization policy for Google advertisers, publishers, and YouTube creators that will prohibit ads for and monetization of content that contradicts well-established scientific consensus around the existence and causes of climate change. The Google Ads team said in the document, this includes content referring to climate change as a hoax or a scam, claims denying that long-term trends show the global climate is warming, and claims denying that greenhouse gas emissions or human activity contribute to climate change. Google says it will use a mix of automated tools and human reviews to enforce the policy. When evaluating content against this new policy, we'll look carefully at the context in which claims are made. So basically, you can go on YouTube and say, hey, this person that thinks that climate change isn't real is a retard. You can go on YouTube and say that, but you can't come out here and say, in a simulation, man totally did not do anything that made the Minecraft a climate something different than what it is.
Well, I mean, it's the same fight we've been having for a long time, and with Twitter now, once they got away with putting those little badges on people's posts and stuff like that, and YouTube got away with putting banners underneath videos, they were only going to go further after that. They were never going to stop doing things like this, stop censoring people or stop forcing people to self-censor, especially if someone's using YouTube as part of their livelihood. They're more likely to self-censor on that. Even if they do feel strongly about climate change, they're going to self-censor on that. That's just the way it is. But it's no surprise to me, to be honest. They were going to do something like this sooner or later. On the climate change thing itself, yeah, I don't know where. I really don't know where I fall, to be honest, on that.
Yeah, it's totally man-made, and the fact that we ever started producing things in the world is the reason that the climate's going to change, and this is going to be Tatooine in 5 years.
Well, anyway, Arizona's headed that direction if we don't get California to stop sticking their straw in our water.
From Fox Business, Taliban says U.S. will provide humanitarian aid to Afghanistan. An interagency delegation of U.S. officials met this weekend with senior representatives with the Taliban and called the two-day meeting in Doha candid and professional, a statement from the State Department obtained by Fox News read. The meeting covered a lot of ground and ranged from terrorism concerns to human rights in the country. The statement said the delegation also called for the safe passage for U.S. citizens and others in the country. The U.S. delegation once again told the Taliban that they will be judged on their actions, not only their words, Ned Price, the spokesman, said. So, after all this talk about we can't recognize the Taliban as the legitimate government of Afghanistan because they're just the terrorists that came in and took over, now we're apparently recognizing the Taliban as the legitimate government and giving them aid.
I'm tired of this, Ed. I really am. I'm tired. I'm tired of this. I really am. It's the same problem that we deal with all the time. It's giving money to foreign actors that we should not be giving money to. We shouldn't be in bed with any of these people. That's that goes without saying. But at the same time, cordial meeting, really?
Yeah.
I don't even know what to do with this. I don't.
Well, it's funny to me that this is coming on the heels of the fact that we've also just found out that the Taliban didn't pay the electric bill, and they may be facing rolling blackouts in the next few months.
China will fix that.
Well, they're getting most of their electricity from Tajikistan and Pakistan and other countries around them, but the Taliban doesn't recognize the bills. They said, no, these were the old government's bills.
I wish I could do that. No, these power costs and water costs and all this stuff, that belonged to the last owner of the house. It's not mine. It's not my responsibility. I wish I could do that. That's awesome. I also wish I had millions of dollars in military equipment from the U.S. government. That'd be awesome too.
That would be kind of nice, wouldn't it? A little bit of a catch up on Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller. The military has announced 6 charges over criticism of his commanders, reading from The Blaze. Chris Enlow, the United States military, plans to drop the hammer on Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller, the Marine officer, who criticized top military commanders for the role they played in the botched withdrawal of Afghanistan. The Marine Corps will be dropping, let me get this, all 6 of these up here. Article 88, contempt towards officers. Article 89, disrespect towards superior commissioned officers. Article 90, willfully disobeying a superior commissioned officer. Article 92, dereliction of the performance of duties. Article 92 as well, failure to obey order or regulation. Article 133, conduct unbecoming an officer and a gentleman. Which I'm not sure how much of a penalty that carries, but I don't know, maybe you know any of that, because you did military.
Not as far as I don't know much about charges for officers. I know conduct unbecoming is usually a pretty serious charge. That's usually stuff you get for, DUIs, fights, anything outside of the military like that. You're usually going to get a conduct unbecoming. But for this, I understand why it happened. I do. I don't quite understand the conduct unbecoming charge, because I feel like he didn't do anything serious enough to warrant that. And all of the charges he faces now already warrant dishonorable discharge and possible jail time. I do know that. I don't know how much jail time, but I do know he faces some time behind bars for this. And it all carries dishonorable discharge. So, and I mean, it's good on him. He's a principled guy. That's what I got from the videos, that this was all on principle. So I understand where he's coming from. And I knew the second he opened his mouth that they were going to come after him with every charge they could. I knew that was going to happen. I just don't understand how they're getting away with the conduct unbecoming charge. That's usually a pretty serious one for an officer. Well,
I guess we will see where that goes here. And I've always said, I mean, I knew right from the beginning to it that they were going to do this, because this is actually against military protocol. I am more concerned as why people are defending the military and not questioning why this is against military protocol, because that's the concern I have, is why. If you see something, say something. Yes, I understand there are channels to do this in the military, but that's the way I would see it.
There are, and that was the thing when I was in. They encouraged lower enlisted to call people out. If you see your squad leader, your team leader, your platoon leader, your platoon sergeant, anybody doing anything out of the norm against military regulation, you're supposed to call them out on it. You're supposed to report them. So they did encourage that kind of thing for sure, and they encouraged us to hold each other accountable. And in my mind, that's what he was doing. He's trying to hold fellow members of the military accountable for their actions or inactions. And quite frankly, I don't think he deserved this. That's all I really have to say on it. I don't really have much more to say on that. There was the developing, I don't know if you included that, but the anti-Trump comments that he had this week.
I haven't seen those now, so.
Yeah, but again, he's obviously a principled dude, so I don't hold anything like that against him. But whatever.
We'll see. Got just a few more here, then we'll get into the meat of the show here. Reading from NBC News, Pfizer asks FDA for emergency authorization for its COVID vaccine for kids ages 5 to 11. Pfizer and BioNTech announced Thursday they had submitted an emergency request to the FDA for authorization of the company's two-dose COVID-19 vaccine in children ages 5 to 11. It looks like reportedly they will be using a dose a third the size of the one for the adult, but yeah, now it's coming to the little kids. And some of the little kids are actually feigning excitement. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago where the woman's kid is out there like, oh, because they said, oh, you might be able to get your vaccine before Halloween, and the kid was like 8.
That's to be honest, it's and I don't like to comment on parenting because obviously I'm not a parent, but it just strikes me as lying to children, because obviously that's what stuck out in my mind, is that obviously that kid was lied to because they were told that this vaccine is something that it's not, and they're not being told the truth about this. They're being scared into complying. They're being scared into silence, basically not asking any questions because they're so afraid of this, when in reality they might not be at risk. But
all right.
We all knew it was coming, so that's no big surprise, no big shock.
Here's another one from the Blaze. Johns Hopkins physician criticizes backwards vaccine mandates, pushes natural immunity. I could have put these in the COVID stuff. I'm just thinking about that now. Dr. Marty Makary of Johns Hopkins School of Medicine says blanket COVID vaccinations are ruining people's lives and says that the natural immunity against the coronavirus is far more effective than vaccinated immunity. That's all I have.
Sounds like hate facts. Sounds like hate facts to me. Sounds like hate facts, and that sounds like that sounds like not the right expert. It's not those experts we're supposed to listen to.
Saint Fauci, hallowed be his name. Got another one from the Associated Press from my neck of the woods up here. Feds won't seek charges against cop in Jacob Blake shooting. From Madison, federal prosecutors announced Friday that they won't file charges against a white police officer who shot Jacob Blake in Wisconsin last year, a shooting that sparked protests that led to the deaths of 2 men. Officer Rustin Shesky, who shot Blake, who is black, during a domestic disturbance in Kenosha in August of 2020. The shooting left Blake paralyzed from the waist down and sparked several nights of protests, some of which turned violent. An Illinois man shot 3 people, killing 2 of them during one of the demonstrations. So, and I do love how the Associated Press is trying to turn the focus of this. They're trying to take this off of Shesky, and they're trying to put this now under Rittenhouse, which that trial is coming up next month.
We knew that they were going to do something to put, because that's ultimately what I think that's the reasoning behind this, why they included Rittenhouse, is they're trying to poison the trial. They're trying to poison the public against him. And as far as the blame goes, there's the blame shifting. I can't really speak to that because I don't know where how they're coming up with that. I don't know how they're actually able to shift the blame like that, or how they're actually spinning that story. I couldn't quite wrap my head around that one. So,
well, the thing with it too is, I mean, we saw this in the Chauvin case too, because it really looked like the Chauvin case was going to be dropped and he was going to be acquitted. But they were already talking about the fact that they had federal agents waiting in the courtroom in Hennepin County to throw cuffs on him. For civil rights charges, which is what they were trying to do with this. The state AG said, no, we can't charge him for anything that was a justified shot. And then they tried to throw civil rights on Mr. Shesky.
Yeah. It comes down to this poisoning the opinion of or against police officers, or the public opinion against police officers. And that's how they're getting away with this kind of thing. Anyone who's versed in the law thought that Chauvin should have been acquitted, that was a pretty easy trial based on the evidence. But it's these leftist governments are using it as a scapegoat to try and avert attention from how bad their cities really are and who's actually in control of them. Because if you go to the streets of Chicago, police aren't in control of those streets. If you go to New York, NYPD is in control of those streets, or isn't in control of those streets. LAPD is in control, or isn't in control of LA. It's the same story in every single one of these municipalities, and the only way they can keep people from paying attention to that is to malign cops and to malign good, upstanding citizens, and whenever they practice self-defense. That's the only way they can get away with this.
Wait, unless they're federal cops, like the Capitol Police.
That was that hearing. As a side note, that hearing was that was some stellar acting. That was some stellar acting by those guys. That was beautiful. I mean, Oscar worthy, really.
Speaking of Oscar worthy, here some evidence that we live in a Chappelle show sketch. From The Hill, black woman accused of pretending to be a Ku Klux Klan member. A black woman was charged with making terroristic threats in letters to her neighbors in the Atlanta area community in which she claimed to be a member of the Klan and threatened to burn down their homes and kill them, authorities said in a statement. The Douglasville Police Department said in a statement 30-year-old Teresha Lucas was charged with 8 counts of making terroristic threats. Lucas, who allegedly described herself as in the letters as a white male with a long red beard from outside of the community, began leaving racist messages in her neighbors' mailboxes in December, according to the department.
That's how you know it's fake, when they describe themselves so in such a detailed way. That's how you know it's fake. And as far as this one goes, I mean, it's the hate or it's the victim currency. That's all this is. It's just victim currency, more victim currency. That's how hoax hates even started. It's all victim currency for them. They don't pay attention to what kind of wider repercussions this might have for people. Nope. Because imagine you're a guy, just as a hypothetical, imagine you're a guy with a white guy with a red beard in that community, and you're just a normal guy, and somebody's going around pretending to be a white dude with a red beard, leaving all this racist crap all over the place. I think I'd move. Move. I'm out. Right.
And the last one, both of these almost made surprise stupidity, but I found one that was even better than this. This one comes to us because we always got to have some libs of TikTok. I am so glad I followed this account on Twitter, by the way. Let's listen to what this young lady had to say.
I mean, I can say it more directly. You weren't gifted, talented, or smart. You were just, most likely, statistically speaking, an upper middle class white kid. And so your school district rewarded you by giving you the title of gifted, and then they use that as an excuse to pull resources from your black and indigenous, low-income, disabled, neurodivergent peers and gave them to you. You benefited from the system of white supremacy and classism because you could uphold it as, more likely than not, an upper middle class or middle class white kid. You were the reason and the excuse for withholding resources from marginalized students, and you were complicit in accepting them. And I know you were a child, and I know you probably didn't have a lot of say, and you also didn't have a lot of perspective. But as an adult, if you're still holding on to this idea that you were a gifted kid once, when all that meant is that you could thrive under classism and white supremacy, unpack that. I mean, I can say it more.
Saint, unpack that.
Unpack that. Where do I even begin on that? Oh my God. Where do I even begin? First, I'll start off with an anecdote. The smartest kid I knew in school skipped, I think, 3 grades in elementary school, 2 grades in middle school, and then skipped 1 grade in high school, and then started college classes his junior year. That I guess that black kid benefited from classism and white supremacy because he was fast-tracked essentially through school. So that, and then I can say it for myself, is that I was in the gifted program, and I had to work my ass off to stay in that program. If my grades dropped in any of my regular classes, I was immediately kicked out of that program. I mean, if they even dropped to a C, I was kicked out of that program. If my grade dropped to a B in that class, I was kicked out of that program. So yeah, cool.
Well, I mean, and they stuck me into that program too. And I mean, I can't say class, I can't say racism because I'm from redacted small town Wisconsin, where there were no black people. There was one in the entire town, and he was adopted. So I mean, I can't say where the race would have come into here, but I was in the programs. I grew up poor. We were poor. It's not upper white middle class.
That's the problem with a lot of these arguments is that they're using this broad net and casting it all over the country, when in reality people live in towns where it's all white people. So are they just benefiting from white supremacy even though it's all white people in the town? Or what about towns like in Georgia or Alabama where it's majority black? I mean, you can't. I don't know. Classism and white supremacy. I can't believe these people exist, Jay. I can't believe these people exist. Oh my God.
All right, let's check some live chat here. Then we got to talk about this Southwest Airlines thing here. Breakdown with Birkenhoff is here. Hey peeps, Ron Helton is on the YouTube side. Katie Zed says, good afternoon, friends. Ron says, still streaming on YouTube. Yeah, I don't know what was going on with the stream at the beginning, but we start off with 4 followers, then we drop to nothing, then we come back up to 5, 8, 10. It was just all over the place, and I thought, yeah, we actually got dropped off for a moment. Ron's moved over to D Live. Ron Helton says, Twitter is a cesspool of censorship rage monkeys. Katie Zed says, you're not really missing anything in those 3 states. Ron Helton says, you're a young saint. Give it a few more years. Wait till the government gets your number and refuses to hang up.
They already kind of have that. I was a member of the federal government for a short time, so they already have that, man. They've already got my number on that.
And they've also got your driver's license number too, because they have mine,
my fingerprints too. And my fingerprints and my DNA and
oh, you have hazmat?
Whatever else. No, I mean the feds have my fingerprints.
Oh,
just from the Army. Because that's how we signed documents. That's how we signed documents in the Army, was with our fingerprints electronically.
I was thinking like for your CDL, because that's why I wasn't in the Army, but I know they've got that information. Well, not the fingerprints because I don't have hazmat, but they've got that for my CDL. Because that's a federal driver's license. Grant says, I was supposed to fly Southwest this weekend, ending up canceling all the flights. Welcome in, Grant. Katie Zed wants to know if anybody actually got Columbus Day off, and then she corrected herself, Indigenous Peoples Day. Birkenhoff says, Andrew Yang wants to start his own party, SMH. Grant says, Andrew Yang is a loser. Grant says, Arvold says, forward, the cliff awaits. Welcome, Arvold. Grant says, AP is Associated Propaganda. Hiley says, is that you, Saint?
Yes, it's me.
Chilaga says, hey, Jay. Hey, Saint. Hiley wants to know why you sound different from the Discord and YouTube.
That's because I'm on a computer.
Chilaga says, never trust a dude wearing both AirPods. Ron Helton, when we were watching the video of the dude in Arizona, threw up the Taliban rip over on D-Live.
I mean, they're a dime a dozen down in southern Arizona, dude. You'll find them all over the place.
Nailbender says, what the fuck is this heresy? Welcome in, Nailbender. Let's see, what else do we have here? Nailbender said, when we were talking about Afghanistan, says, just send leftists over there to bitch at them until they go away. 80s Kid says, the country is trillions in debt. Shall we cut back? Nah, let's send more money for foreign aid. As far as conduct on becoming an officer or gentleman, Ron Helton says, or messing with the general's daughter. Ron Helton says, the military doesn't like to be embarrassed. They have public relations officer that makes public statements. Ron Helton says it's child abuse unless there are 3 kids rolled into one. They don't need it. I don't trust this jab. It does not prevent transmission. Nailbender says the court of public opinion is the only one that matters. Ron Helton says, is KKK membership so fallen so much that they're recruiting those that they want to oppress?
On the last statement, I mean, as far as the Sorry, I was looking at something. Um, sorry. The court of public opinion thing. Sorry. As far as that goes, that's the only thing that matters to the left, and they also made that matter to us, to the right. Because prior to this, I don't remember that ever mattering, but now it matters a lot. That's where you win a lot of this fight, is in the court of public opinion, especially leading up to any of these trials.
Well,
which
and we'll
is
see what happens.
Not a good place to be.
We'll see what happens with this this Rittenhouse thing. I'm very curious about that, especially since I know the judge and I know the town. Arvolt says, Shorter, this chick thinks black people are stupid. Hiley's half-track is apparently in the shop. Saint says, not just black... Oh, that's you. Not just black people. She had a word salad of people in there. An 80s kid will get last word for now, and we will circle back. It's Jen Psaki style after we talk about the commie fucking coof. And says, LGBTQ, let's get Biden to quit.
I'm up for that.
All right, we're going to talk about what happened in Southwest over the weekend here, because that was fairly insane. So I want to read just a bit from CNBC here to start off with. Southwest Airlines cancels 1,800 flights, blaming weather and staffing. Reading here, Southwest Airlines canceled more than 1,800 flights this weekend, disrupting the travel plans of thousands of customers and stranding flight crews. The airline blamed the meltdown on a combination of bad weather, air traffic control issues, and its own shortage of available staff. I know this is incredibly difficult for all of you, and our customers are not happy, Alan Kasher, Executive Vice President of Daily Flight Operations, told staff in a note on Sunday, which was seen by CNBC. The airline said initial problems on bad weather and an FAA-imposed air traffic management program were to blame. So, and that's, I don't want to read too much in this article, but I do want to talk in a little bit about what's been happening here and some of the rumors that are going around. Now, Bloomberg has already come out and tried to say that the right-wing conversations where they're saying that it was people that were doing a mass walkout aren't true, and it was really just weather. And I looked at the radar for the map and did the animation for the entire weekend. Now, this was all happening out supposedly in Florida, but it also affected Alabama, Louisiana, and Dallas Airfield. And according to the radar, with the exception of a little bit of storm that passed over Florida this weekend, there wasn't a fucking cloud in the sky all weekend. Plus, it also affected Chicago Midway, which there was a little bit of rain in this region, but not enough to warrant a flight being canceled. I've taken off in more rain on a Southwest flight than what we had over the weekend here.
Yeah, I don't understand that excuse. I mean, they could have used any number of excuses right now. Part shortages, staffing shortages for mechanics. They could have used any number of excuses. But blaming the weather, I mean, that's something that people can call you out on. I don't think that was a good idea. Because me, I'm tuned into the weather as well, just because I have to be for my job. I didn't see anything this weekend that warranted me stopping anywhere. So I don't know what they're talking about, but okay. Want to go with that line? Go with that line.
They tried to do the FAA too, which the FAA came out almost immediately with a statement and said, no, we were fully staffed the entire weekend. It wasn't us.
Well, that's the federal government for you. They're going to save face wherever they can. But yeah, no, Southwest, they don't want to, and there's an elephant in the room, a big elephant in the room, and they don't want to talk about it. They want to ignore it. And that is that their staff are not going to comply with this bull crap. They don't want to, especially when there are smaller airlines that are willing to hire them without the mandate.
Well, and this goes now. One of the reasons that Southwest is falling into this a little bit, it does appear that they do a large amount of federal contracts. So they are, for whatever reason, considered to be federal employees. So that's part of the reason that the mandate is off of this. And yeah, I mean, they're running in trying to do damage control, saying, no, it definitely wasn't walkouts. And they're trying to say that as well, that it's right-wing provocateurs that are saying that's walkouts. I want to grab this tweet here from Joshua Smith of Break the Cycle, who he screenshotted. He didn't quote tweet. He screenshotted it out from the Palmer Report, which There's no right wing in the Palmer report. I think everybody in the Palmer report is left-handed. They're so fucking left-wing. But he puts this out here because the Palmer report tweeted out at 2:27 at 10:10 on 10:10:21. This attempt by unvaccinated Southwest airline employees at crippling U.S. air travel is the latest reminder that it's a very short distance from anti-vaxxer to domestic terrorist.
That's a bold statement. That's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it works out for him.
Well, then coming from the Palmer report, too, actually coming out and pointing out the fact that there was a walkout, and it's from a union, too. Southwest is a union airline.
Well, and that's been pointed out by people is let's use the unions. Let's force everybody to join these unions so we can give them more negotiating power, all this stuff. And then when the whole union turns against them, no, domestic terrorists, that's what they are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy to think that this is what's happening in the U.S. and just how much this has actually affected things.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just during COVID, you bring down one airline and traffic gets gummed up. I mean, it gets gummed up like crazy. And I saw that personally right at the beginning of the pandemic, quote unquote. But when my mom tried to fly back east to go see her parents, she couldn't find a flight because two of the airlines were not booking any flights. So every other airline was full. She ended up having to drive all the way up to Massachusetts from here.
Ooh.
So, oh yeah.
That's a good 3 days on the road or more.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Well, and I mean, what are we going to see when, they've actually shown, if what the Palmer report is saying is true, and I have no reason not to believe it at this point, I really don't, then this has shown the hand to industry and these people, if they don't want to do stuff, if they don't want to get the vaccine, even if they've already had the vaccine and they just want to stand in solidarity with the people that are going to get fired, you kind of showed your hand of, okay, your move, what are you going to do? Because we can shut down your fucking industry in a hurry.
Well, and that's the problem coming up here with my industry, with truck driving, is that, a lot of truck drivers are of the perspective that they're not going to take the vaccine. A lot of them. I've met a few who've taken it in my day-to-day, but the majority I think, are of the opinion that this vaccine is not necessary. And then you also have plenty of Sikh and Arab drivers who are not going to take this just because of religious exemptions. They're not going to take that. You got several Christian denominations who are just not going to take this. You got all sorts of problems. And I hate to say this, but I mean, if they mandate a vaccine for truck drivers, I know where I'm going. I'm getting the hell off the road. I'm not going to stick around for that. And I know a lot of drivers are going to do the same. They're going to quit. They're not going to deal with this, which is going to be a problem.
I can tell you some of the controls that where I work have gone. I'm not going to do it on air, but some of the other controls that are going to happen with that as well, because it looks like I'm probably going to be safe from this on top of everything else here. One more of the airlines, and I want to touch on a couple other things that have gone on with the Common Coof this week. The Biden came out. He did a speech in Elk Grove Village, Illinois, which is not very far from where I'm sitting right now. But he came out and he did a big speech out there talking about, he was congratulating the CEO of United Airlines for the vaccine mandates that he has put on, and pointing out the fact that United Airlines has 99% vaccination rate after firing all the unvaccinated people. So apparently, according to this article, about 61% of United Airlines employees were vaccinated, 39% unvaccinated, and now, after they went through and did a massive sweep and fired everybody, yes, now 99% of their workforce is vaccinated.
That's one, like I said, that's one way to do it. That's efficient right there. That's government level efficiency. I mean, that is amazing. That's fantastic, guys. But no, of course they were going to fudge the numbers on this. And I'm surprised they were as candid as they were about the firing. And I'm surprised they didn't just come out and say, oh, it was 99% over here and 99% over here and 98% over here. I'm surprised they didn't do that. But, I kind of saw it coming.
Well, let's have a listen to what the House Plant Chief actually had to say, because we clipped out a part of the speech for this. So let's listen to that.
These requirements work. And as the Business Roundtable others told me when I announced the first requirement, that encouraged businesses to feel they could come in and demand the same thing of their employees. More people are getting vaccinated. More lives are being saved. Let's be clear. When you see headlines and reports of mass firings and hundreds of people losing their jobs, look at the bigger story. I've spoken with Scott Kirby, CEO of United Airlines, who's here today. United went from 59% of their employees to 99% of their employees in less than 2 months after implementing the requirement. 99%.
Biden. You're not taking what you're supposed to out of those numbers, man. I don't think anybody is. I don't think you're getting it, man. I mean, we do. We understand what that really means, but okay. God, that guy has no idea where he is.
I heard a super chat. I was listening to one of Styx's live streams while I was on the way to, I randomly drove to Iowa yesterday. I told you about that off mic. Well, I was on the way down there. I was listening to one of Styx's live streams, and one of the live chatters sent a super chat in that said, Biden thinks that diarrhea is hereditary because it runs in his genes.
I want an ape, I want to press someone in the press corps. I want them to ask that unironically. I want them to ask, Mr. Biden, does diarrhea run in your genes? Does it run in your genes, Mr. President? Mr. President, does it run in your genes? Oh my God.
Fortunately, we have nobody from Turns and Pages Productions in the press pool. We're working on that.
God.
Did you see that Candace Cameron got into the news this week? You might be too young to even know who Candace Cameron is.
I am too young. I don't know on that one. It sounds familiar, but I don't know for sure.
The star of Netflix's Fuller House and one of the co-stars of ABC's Full House, Candace Cameron, drew a lot of criticism over this week and a lot of support as well for this Instagram post that we're about to look at here. It first appeared as a Instagram story, but then she put it down into her regular posting as well. A series of memes, all starting with "I'm not anti-V," of course, meaning anti-vax. The first one says, "I'm not anti-V, I'm just pro-medical freedom." "I'm not anti-V, I'm just pro-informed consent." "I'm not anti-V, I'm just pro-immune system." "I'm not anti-V, I'm just pro-early intervention." And finally, "I'm not anti-V, I'm just pro-sunlight and real food and vitamins." To hear that coming out of a Hollywood person, that's amazing to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's usually because one of her other co-stars, I'm pretty sure that Fuller House show, I thought that got canceled, but that was one of her co-stars was caught up in the college admission scandal a while back. Don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, Aunt Becky.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think, she might be at that point, where she's like James Woods or Kevin Sorbo, where they're at a point in their career where they just don't give a crap. They don't care what they say. They don't care that they can just speak their mind now.
One of the things with Candace Cameron, though, is her brother is Kirk Cameron, who Growing Pains Kirk Cameron, who has turned into probably one of the strongest evangelists. Evangelist, is that how you pronounce it, in the country? Like
evangelist.
He is Mr. Evangelism, and he did a Christian movie for Hannity. He was the director for that too. So, I mean, it's not like she's just this product of Hollywood leftism and never had any sort of influence from the other side. Her brother is the voice of evangelism in this country.
Yeah. And I mean, because I think that runs in the family. I think that's a
Well, yeah,
pretty common thread with
they were
them is
raised in the
they're
same
all
house.
yeah that's they're all fairly Christian people. Even her, I'm sure,
Mm-hmm.
is probably pretty Christian. And I mean, where's the lie in what she's saying? Where's the lie? So I good honor. I really wish more people would come out and actually speak their voice from that side of the aisle or from those parts of the country.
Well, I
Because I
mean,
know that a ton of them probably believe it. They probably believe exactly what she's saying, and they want to work still, so they don't say it.
yeah, I mean, we're seeing some of it from one of our other Fuller House co-stars, Jodie Sweetin. Her on-screen little sister was probably one of the most progressive voices in the world right now, especially coming from Hollywood. Like the most, like full-on Bernie bro type.
Mm.
And now
Makes me
seeing the
trust
two
you
of
a
them
little less,
cast,
but
seeing the two of them cast together.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, it is an odd pairing, and you get those odd pairings every once in a while.
But they've also been working
Uh,
together since they were little kids. Remember, Candace and Jodie Sweetin started on screen together, starring together, at ages like I believe they were 7 and 5 when they first started working
yeah, and
together.
it's those kinds of things, and it shows like that. You have heard actors talk about it, where it's just like, yeah, I grew up with them essentially, like they've been my friends since I was, a child. So, obviously that builds a pretty strong bond over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But even if this pandemic, quote unquote, has shown us anything, it really doesn't matter how strong bonds are.
Yeah. Just a brief touch on this, just to let everybody know that if your children are vaccinated, or even if they're unvaccinated or under it, St. Anthony of Fauci has said that they can enjoy Halloween this year. He's given you permission, Fauci says. I don't ever
Yeah, we
recall
did that
asking, but
last year.
Fauci says.
I hate to break it to you, man, but we did that last year and the year before that. Yeah, we had Halloween. I don't recall asking you.
But I do want to touch on this one before we'll do some live chat here in just a second again. I want to touch on this one because this one just kind of enraged me. And you know me, I don't get enraged very often. I don't show a
Oh
lot
no,
of emotion very often at all.
you're pretty chill, or you're a really chill guy.
But this letter came out from UC Health. This was screenshotted and shared with Felix Rocky Mountain Chaos over on Twitter. The letter reads, and this is actually the verbatim letter that came out of this, from UC Health Transplant Center and Schultz Medical Campus and Schultz Outpatient Pavilion, 1635 Aurora Court, Mall Stop F749, Aurora, Colorado. And I'm not really doing this to dox the medical system. Everybody knows who it is, just to give some legitimacy to this. September 28, 2021. Names are redacted, of course, but the ABC 7 article that talks about this gave the names back out. Names are redacted in the letter. The transplant team at the University of Colorado Hospital has determined that it is necessary to place you inactive on the waiting list. You will be inactivated on the list for non-compliance by not receiving the COVID vaccine. You will have 30 days to begin the vaccination series. If your decision is to refuse COVID vaccination, you will be removed from the kidney transplant list. You will continue to accrue waiting time, but you will not receive a kidney offer while listed inactive. Once you complete the COVID vaccination series, you will be reactivated on the kidney transplant list pending any other changes in your health condition. If you have any questions or concerns, please call me. Attached is the letter from the United Network of Organ Sharing. It describes services and information offered to patients by UNOS and the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network. Sincerely, Katie Heyman, BSN RN.
This one particularly pissed me off. I was very, very angry about this as well, because it has turned. I know people want to avoid using language like this, such strong language, but it quite literally has turned people into or unvaccinated people into second-class citizens, and it's disgusting to see this kind of treatment for people. I do hope it gets walked back. I do hope that the Colorado government does some steps in solves this issue, because this is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. To hold, essentially, you're holding someone's life hostage, like their actual, the breath in their lungs. You're holding it hostage for them to get a vaccine, for them to get poked with this vaccine. It's ridiculous. It's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. And so it really did piss me off.
To look into this a little bit, because there's more to this. The woman, Leilani Litali, learned of this after receiving the letter dated September 28th from the UC Health Transplant Center. She is in stage 5 renal failure right now, on top of all this. And she actually has an unvaccinated donor, a member of her church, who is willing to not go through the procurement center to actually donate the kidney directly to her outside of the UNOS, and UC Health won't do it because both members are unvaccinated.
Well, and that's another thing that this is going to do, is this is essentially going to create, two economies, two healthcare systems. And, it's going to divide us even further on that, and just by doing that. So hopefully, or she probably will be able to find a doctor in a hospital system who are willing to do that transplant for them. They might have to go out of state, and they might have to pay a lot to do it, but they probably will be able to do that. But this was an outcome a lot of people did see coming, is that this was going to essentially create separate systems for each of us, separate healthcare, separate economies, which I'm okay with, as long as we get to break that into a chunk of land and just separate. Let's get a divorce already. I'm a little bit tired of it.
Well, let's grab some of these live chats here. The cover Southwest is getting from the MSM is wild, says Chilaga 1984. Arvolt has moved to lurking status, so he's not going to be commenting anymore, but he's still going to be watching. Thank you, Arvolt, for the view. Ron Helton is unfortunately just about over another bout of pneumonia. It felt worse than the coof this time. Ron Helton says, "Let's go, Brandon."
Man, sorry to hear that, by the way, Ron. I know pneumonia sucks. I've had it before. It's a horrible thing. I ran, as a little side story, I ran my exit PT test in AIT, my job training, ran my exit PT test with full-blown pneumonia. So I ran 2 miles with full-blown pneumonia. I was about to die after I got done with that. I crossed the finish line and doubled over coughing. But yeah, man, I'm sorry to hear that. Hope you feel better.
Chilaga says, if Southwest becomes the Novax airline, I'm good. Yeah, it's, I think, the only airline I've ever flown was Southwest.
I usually do United. That's usually who I fly with.
Well, good. 99% of the workforce is vaccinated.
No, I'm so glad to hear it.
Ron Helton says, I would rather drive until the airlines and the government get some common sense. Let's see, what else do we have here? Ron Helton says, I would like to see the morning media clips of when Biden wakes up. Hey, am I still alive? What's my job? Dude, where's my jab? Featuring Joe Biden, says Chilaga. Ben Wild is here, so what have I missed? The lightning round and some comic coof stuff. McConnell Smuggles Coke is here. My web app is almost done. I'd say about 85% complete. I'll give you a call. We should talk. Well, we'll see what happens with that. I know I've got a web designer working off of that, working right now, so we'll see where that goes. Ron Helton says, why hasn't that little shrimp Tony Mengele Fauci not been put in jail? MK Ultra 3330 says, so the vaxxed are more likely to get kidney disease. Ron Helton says, the media has made this mess by sensationalizing the virus. What they should have been doing is questioning the death totals. Yeah, they won't do that, though. That was how they got rid of the Orange Man.
That was the big problem with this. This was the biggest problem that I had with this, is like, if we were going to treat it like any other disease, worldwide disease, I would have been fine with that. If we would have just said, all right, here's what we need to do, we make plans of action, treatment options, and we get this fixed up. But instead we turned it into a political fight. And the media was responsible for that. They started that. they threw the first stone in the political or the COVID political fight. So it was. I knew this was going to be a shit show nightmare. As soon as that first stone was thrown, this was going to be a bad one.
All right, and we've got one last one here before we circle back, and that is a question for both of us here. Jenna Tolls _TV over on Twitch says, thoughts on crypto? I want to go first on that. I think it's a good idea, but I think a lot of it glows at this point because the government knows that they can use that to go make people feel like they're doing something illegal against the government. So I'm not sure which ones to trust and which ones not to trust at this point. I'm generally pro-crypto.
Same. I have some questions about stability as far as that goes. I do have some questions about that. It also is one of those things where the government kind of put a bad taste in people's mouth on crypto when they came out and they said they had traced someone's crypto. It was that hacker story, the oil pipeline hacker story. So that turned people off a little bit. And like you said, yeah, it does glow a little bit because it does give people a sense, and certainly way back in the day, yeah, it was going against the government. It was a way to hide assets from the government. Now, no, I don't think so anymore. It's so public now that it really isn't good for that anymore. If you really want to hide money from the government, and this is just a hypothetical, you got to put it in a Swiss bank account.
Although you would never want to do something like that because the government is your friend. Oh,
certainly not. No, you need to give part of that money to the government. It needs to be taxed. Of course. You don't want to hide money from the government. That's unethical. It's immoral. You shouldn't do that.
All right. We're going to talk just a little bit about the debt ceiling here. So I want to go through this, and we're going to talk. We'll circle back to the live chat. We're going to do the debt ceiling, and we're going to do some of the stuff on the infrastructure bill as well. So the first thing I want to talk about here is the fact that crisis has been averted. The world is saved. Everything is going to be just fine at this point. Senate Democrats are, let's go here. Senate votes to lift the debt ceiling by $480 billion. This happened at the 11th hour on Friday. This past week, Senate Democrats passed the $480 billion increase by a simple majority vote of 50 to 48. Now, this was not able to be filibustered. They did try to filibuster this right away, but because of the deal that McConnell had struck and the fact that this is going to be a short-term solution, the vote to invoke cloture on this was voted on by a 63 to 35 margin, with 2 senators absent at this point. So, yay, we get to raise the debt by another $480 billion in 2 months.
2 months. That blew my mind. Like, people have talked about just the quantity of money that the government uses on a regular basis. But when $480 billion for 2 months, 2 months, that's ridiculous, guys. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, I'm pro-government. I'm not pro this government. This government is entirely too powerful. They've way overreached the Constitution, around the Constitution. They spend entirely too much money. They tax us far too much. I hate this government a lot. And this is a perfect example of why. Perfect example of why I hate this government so much.
I think Missy hates this government too.
That's not Missy. That's actually my parents' dog.
Oh.
Bandit.
I think Bandit hates this government too. Well, yeah, I mean, that blows my mind off this. Now, this has been a long time coming, and they've been talking about this for a few weeks now. I know that McConnell had first come out and said that he wants Democrats to come out and basically, he wants them to use their budget reconciliation on this. He has not come out and said specifically he wants them to use the budget reconciliation for this, but it's been heavily implied from out in the beginning of this, because this is the argument we'll talk about in just a minute when we talk about the infrastructure bill. If they use this, they don't get another one for the rest of this congressional term. This is the last one that they get. So they can.
And as far as that goes, I really don't see any benefit to it either. Long term for them, I don't see it as a good strategy. I feel like that's short term thinking. which is a problem that a lot of government officials have. They have a lot of problems with short-term thinking. They never think about long-term repercussions. And I do think that using budget reconciliation would be a mistake based on what, or it's going to become another problem, or a problem for them down the road.
Yeah, and I mean, we're going to see this all happen again in December. It's going to be the same thing because now the reason that they got to this is because apparently Republicans need to be on board with this because they spend all this money during the Trump years, and that's all we're doing right now is paying the interest on all the money that Republicans borrowed during the Trump years, which that's another argument entirely. I told them not to fucking do that. I said that into this microphone. Don't do this. You're going to be fucking sorry if you do this. All this money you're borrowing for the commie coup. You're going to be sorry. And sure enough, they were fucking sorry. But one of the justifications for doing this was the fact that it takes too much time to draw up a budget reconciliation. They need to go through and test a bunch of things before they can run it. They weren't able to do this before the government supposedly runs out of money on October 18th.
I find that hard to believe. I really do, because this government excels at bureaucracy. They really do. So I find that hard to believe. I feel like they could have got that done in time, but like I said, it would have been a mistake. And I think a lot of them knew that going into this. I think a lot of them knew that this would have been a mistake to try and go with budget reconciliation.
I think he's still going to try and force them to do that, though. That's the thing, because then they lose it for their massive fucking pork package. Which means they lose the other infrastructure bill, because the progressives won't go with the other infrastructure bill if they don't get the massive fucking pork package.
Yeah. I can't really figure out where they would go from here, in any other way that they could solve it. Other than that, I mean, it does seem like a best option right now. Like I said, it is a short-term solution that they could go with. And if it is true that they're going to force it through, then we'll have to see how that turns out, I guess, because there's no way to know. There's absolutely no way to know what kind of repercussions that'll have down the road. Not yet.
Well, I know that they were trying to float a filibuster carve-out for this, too. They were trying to do that throughout this entire thing. Like, no, just let us have one more filibuster-proof thing. Don't worry about anything else. We'll never use this again.
Yeah, okay. Sure. And that's been the most disappointing thing in this, is that so many Republicans have been so hardline saying that they're going to, use the filibuster on all of this crap. Mm-hmm. They've been so hardline and saying, we're going to vote no, we're going to keep this, or keep them from doing this, we're going to keep them from destroying our country. Yet they compromise every step of the way. It's a recurring cycle, or it's a recurring process. Mm-hmm. We come up against these hardline issues that the voters say no on. And they say, no, absolutely not. And we're telling you not to vote yes on this, but somehow they compromise, or they come to a compromise, and the bill gets passed. And that's honestly what I thought was going to happen with this infrastructure bill. That's what I thought was going to happen with this, but that doesn't appear to be what's going to happen with this. It seems like Republicans are actually standing their ground on it.
So there was one really good thing that came out of this entire process. The memes. During a speech on the floor where Schumer decided he was going to place all the blame on his Republican colleagues, he didn't realize where the camera was pointed, and Joe Manchin making all kinds of faces throughout this entire speech. And I want to play a little bit of this for you guys, for you in the audience, because it's hilarious to watch. And we're even going to full screen this fucking thing so we can watch it here. So this is what we saw off of this.
McConnell and Senate Republicans insisted they wanted a solution to the debt ceiling, but said Democrats must raise it alone by going through a drawn-out, convoluted, and risky reconciliation process. That was simply unacceptable to my caucus. And
you can hear the what the fuck in his eyes. You can hear it.
Yesterday, Senate Republicans finally realized that their obstruction was not going to work. I thank very much thank my Democratic colleagues for showing our unity in solving this Republican-manufactured crisis. Despite immense opposition from Leader McConnell and members of his conference, our caucus held together, and we've pulled our country back from the cliff's edge that Republicans tried to push us over. This is a temporary but necessary and important fix. I appreciate that at the end of the day, we were able to raise the debt limit without a convoluted and unnecessary reconciliation process that until today, the Republican leader claimed was the only way to address the debt limit. Let me say...
And there it is. I can't listen to this shit. I'm out of here.
Oh my God, man. I don't know where to begin. I don't know where to begin with that. I don't know where to begin with that because here's, it's like you said, it is, or it's like we said, the only way that they were going to go through with this is it is the short-term solution, budget reconciliation. But somehow Schumer comes in and says no to that. No, we're not going to do that. Why? Well, because it's too convoluted. It's too complicated. Well, dude, you work in the federal government. That should be your bread and butter. This shouldn't be too hard of a process for you to do. But I think Schumer is one of those people who does recognize that it's a short-term solution with massive repercussions down the road. So I do think that was probably his thinking on that.
Well, and yeah, like I say, it's the memes that go through this. I want to see if I can find some safe ones here. But our friend Arvold over here, he got into the meme smithing of this here. I just pulled it up on Instagram for here, so let me get it up onto the screen here. And you see, Manchin with his hands in his face over here. My family, me at Thanksgiving dinner playing Talk Turkey for the 4th time. Stephen Ignoramus' his rap song. Thought he had more than this. What else is there? No, the other way. My family, me at Thanksgiving dinner talking about Alex Jones and showing InfoWar vids. With Manchin with his hands in his face. My family, me at Thanksgiving dinner talking about how they're turning the freaking frogs gay. And you can kind of see where this is going, which...
oh yeah, of course.
I love meme smithing so much. And we have some very talented meme smiths in our audience.
Oh yeah, certainly. It's I don't know. I don't know, man. That just blows my mind. Blows my mind that that's their thinking on this. But at least we got some good memes out of it, I suppose.
This is what Biden had to say on this, and Biden actually had a meeting with CEOs, Fortune 50 CEOs, in the White House set. I mean, this is not the White House. This is the White House set. Let me get this up here. But he had this meeting with these Fortune 50 CEOs to talk about what's going to happen if we do fall into debt and the debt ceiling doesn't get raised and we default on all our debts, which... these are the people that he's supposedly going to be. I'm going to tax these people because they're not paying their fair share, man. Come on, and just come in here, pay a little bit more. These are the same people that he's now meeting with at this point. And how much production value had to go into the set too, by the way?
Oh, the White House set. Oh, that probably cost us a good chunk of change. It probably cost us a couple million at least. And it's just weird. It's just so weird. Why? Why are we doing this whole White House set thing? Is it because the real leaders of the world are sitting in the Oval Office right now and we're not allowed to see him there anymore?
I heard it was because he crapped his pants in the Oval Office once and the Secret Service said, we're not cleaning that up. We're the fuck out of here. Otherwise you do something. But he also had this to say, talking about why we needed to raise the debt limit to begin with. Let's listen to what the House Plant Chief had to say.
And for joining me today to talk about the need to raise the debt limit. We haven't failed to do that since our inception as a country. We need to act. These leaders know the need to act. The United States pays its bills. It's who we are. It's who we've been. It's who we're going to continue to be, God willing. That's what's called the full faith and credit of the United States. Let me be clear. Raising the debt limit is paying our old debts. There's nothing to do with new spending or what may be coming this year or other years. It has nothing to do with my plans on infrastructure or building back better, both of which are paid for, but they're not even in the queue right now.
All right. I have two problems with that. One, he
Just
said,
the two?
all right, more than that. But the two I'm going to talk on is one, the whole inception of our country thing. All right. One, we went into debt a long time ago. We've been going into debt a lot. All right. The one time we've been debt free was when Andrew Jackson paid off our debt. That was in the 18, I forget. But he paid it off once. But that's not our constitutional or your constitutional duty as the government. That's not, he's acting like that's something they have to do, like it's a necessity. We have to keep raising the debt limit. We have to keep putting U.S. citizens, Americans, into debt. Because we all share a portion of this. It's not like it's not on our shoulders in a small way. So that's the first problem I have with that. The other problem I have with it is at the end, is the whole infrastructure thing, my Build Back Better plan. It's already paid for. Already paid for. It's already good. If it's already paid for, where are you getting that money if it's already paid for? What are you talking about? Please explain. Please, somebody elaborate on that, because they keep saying that and they don't elaborate. I really need you to elaborate on that point. What do you mean it's already paid for?
Furthermore, we got to talk about your senator over here, and that is, of course, the colorful Kyrsten Sinema, because in addition to the bathroom attacks of last week that Britt and I talked about last week, she had more when she was attempting to leave ASU from the airport, listening here, from Fox News. Jordan, who is at Jordan Ull, says, watch as Kyrsten Sinema dodges even more questions from Kunur OSHA about why she's purposefully killing major investments in clean energy, affordable childcare, housing, and more. Let's have a listen.
Hi, Senator Sinema. I want to ask if you can explain to the American people what you're planning on cutting from Joe Biden's Build Back Better plan.
I'm having trouble hearing.
Do you want to cut climate priorities? Is it elder care that you want to cut, or is it child care?
Senator, please. We are asking for your help. Senator, we need
What are
you.
the priorities?
I'm
I'm just trying to get an explanation for the American
Senator, you can do the right thing.
All I want to know is what the specific
Senator Sinema, I just work Senator Sinema, my hometown is surrounded by a refinery.
And I like the context of what they're trying to say off of this. What are you going to cut? Are you going to cut the old people's benefits? Are you going to cut the children's benefits? What are you going to cut off of this? On a concourse that you've probably been on before, by the way.
Oh yeah. The other thing they said, some of the language they were using was really, really, really kind of creepy. You going to do the right thing? What are you going to do for us? Are you going to do the right thing? Are you going to do the right thing? That kind of stuff. It's a shaming tactic is what it is. And communists were great at it. They invented it, actually. But it's a shaming tactic. It's a group shaming tactic. That's all it is. And I commend her, as much as I don't like her, I commend her for sticking to her guns on this and not caving, even though she has been harassed by everyday people out on the street and by her own colleagues. So I do hope that she sticks to her guns on this, at least for now. She does need, or she's doing this for re-election purposes, but I hope for the time being she does stick to her guns on it. So,
well, they also got her in the airplane too. Let's listen to that. This is Jordan Ull again, says a DACA recipient named Karina tried to ask Kyrsten Sinema if she'd support a pathway to citizenship for immigrants, and Sinema refused to answer.
Senator, hello, how are you? Good? Sorry, I'm Karina. I don't know if you remember me. I just want to know if you can commit, as my senator, if you can commit to passing a reconciliation that could provide a pathway to citizenship for immigrants. We have been waiting for this for too long, But I just need to know if you can commit to passing a budget reconciliation that would include immigration and citizenship for people to be protected, like me and many others. Can you come?
So, and we'll just grab a couple seconds off of that one there, but well, and the first thing I want to say off of that, and I said this on Contemporary too, is the fact that the parliamentarian said that you can't put that in the reconciliation. That's not even in the reconciliation anymore. That's not a part of this.
Well, I mean, I have other problems with it. For one, as my senator, she's not your senator. You're not a citizen of this country. She's not your senator. Unless did you vote for her? Did she vote for her? I'm pretty sure DACA recipients were excluded from the vote or from voting because they're not full they're not full citizens. So she's not your senator. Stop doing that.
Well, I mean, we're seeing this too. They cornered her in the bathroom. First off, we talked about that last week, and then now, again, on a plane, there's no place to walk off of this. And I'm not against confronting your elected officials. Don't get me wrong on that for any stretch of the imagination. But there is a line where it crosses between where you're actually going to get something effective and done, or where you're being just fucking creepy.
Oh, this isn't confronting. That, like I said, this is not confronting. They're not just confronting their public official. They're shaming. That's what they're doing. They're publicly shaming her into compliance. That's what they're attempting to do. Now, I don't think it's working because, like I said, I think she's going to stick to her guns on this. But at the same time, it's like I said, it's not confronting, and I am all for that. I do believe that's an important part of the political process, that you do need to be able to confront your public officials wherever they are and ask them questions about what they're doing. Do it politely, walk up and say, hi, how you doing? Introduce yourself and say, I need to ask you a couple questions, please, if you'd be so kind. Mm-hmm. But with this, that's not that. And it is getting to a point where it's a little bit, I don't want to say unacceptable, but a little bit abnormal.
Yeah. Speaking of things that are abnormal, Joe Biden also made a trip this on his little Midwest tour that he's been doing throughout the week. He made a trip up to Michigan, just outside of Flint this week, where he went to go push this $3.5 trillion monstrosity out here for this. And, well, this is what he got for a welcome. Let's listen and watch. Look at all those Trump signs out there. And that's one of the clips that came out of this here. I believe... No. Yeah, we do. No, that's just him pushing for the infrastructure plan. So, as going through, when his motorcade went through this Michigan town, the motorcade showed numerous, as we saw, the signs that say, fuck Joe Biden. There were a lot of Make America Great Again signs, Trump signs here. Protesters lining the streets in advance of all this. We have this video here from mlive.com. Let's watch this one here on top of everything else. See if we can get some audio of what was happening there. I thought I had that video, but I guess I don't. Some of this might have been muted for content too after they re-edited it. Yeah, I think they added some of the audio out of this. But, going through Michigan, union-friendly Michigan, and seeing these massive, massive stretches of Trump signs.
Well, and that's what came out of this election is the unions, they feel betrayed. Is all of these guys who were told, oh, we need to stump for Joe Biden. We need to stump for Joe Biden. He's our guy. He's the union-friendly guy. And then now they're losing jobs. They're told, hey, you're going to have to shove something into your body that you don't want to, or you're going to lose your job. They feel betrayed. So these union-friendly states like Illinois, Michigan, and Ohio, New York, all that stuff, they feel betrayed. They feel like this was, they got the raw end of the deal here. Feel like they were they're sold a bill of goods.
Yeah.
And it doesn't surprise me.
I believe it's a state congresswoman for the Alyssa Slotkin. No, U.S. Rep. Alyssa Slotkin. I'm sorry. The congresswoman for this region is telling us how embarrassed she is by the profane message and the profane language on these signs that was being chanted out here. Because this just happened to be outside of an elementary school.
Okay. Profanity. Yeah. All right. So cuss words, bad. Cuss words are bad. Profanity is bad. But we're going to give your kid a booklet on how to give a proper blowjob.
Yeah, I cut that story for time because I did want to talk about the North Carolina lieutenant governor. But I had to cut that one. There was no way we were going to touch on that one. But yeah, he got that super fucking based video talking about that. But this profanity outside of the school zone, that's horrifying. And she's embarrassed for Michigan.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. It's so horrible. The cussing, the cursing, the profanity. Oh my God. Okay. I can't take these people seriously anymore. I don't believe you. Like whenever words come out of their mouth, I don't believe them because they don't actually believe what they're saying. They're just using it. It's just a tool to them. Every sentence is just a tool to them. Every word that comes out of their mouth, it's just a tool to further their ends.
We have got to talk about some of the stuff that's going on here right now. We got to do some live chat, then we'll get through what else we can because we're running up on time right now. So let's see what these guys are doing. I've got a couple of quick hitters though to end us out here. Let's see, what do we got here? Holy shit. We gotta scroll back a ways here. Ron Helton says, friends took the antiviral and steroids when they had the coof. Ron says the main attraction for crypto is privacy, but if it's true the government can access your account, then that is no longer valid. Ron Helton says Swiss bank accounts have been forced by the government to reveal their account holders, so a Swiss account is no longer any good.
Okay, then Cayman Islands, any one of those. There's another tax haven that I'm thinking of that I can't remember, that you obviously should not use. You should not use any of these places to store your money. You should not use them. That would be immoral.
Ron Helton says, if any part of the Green New Deal gets enacted, it's over. It'll be nearly impossible to get them to stop funding technology that cannot, in the near term, provide 100% of our energy needs. Government is the only good at flushing good money after bad. Gravitational Time Vortex. That's a name I haven't seen in here before. So thank you, Gravitational Time Vortex, for checking us out. The one aim of these financiers is world control by the creation of inextinguishable debt. Quote from Henry Ford. Bob Dole once quipped, this is from Ron Helton, the most dangerous place in Washington is between Charles Schumer and a television camera. 80s Kid says, look, there's a squatter in the White House. Gravitational Time Vortex says, my foam pillow has more memory than Joe Biden.
Good one.
Jackson also disbanded the corrupt bankers, also from Ron Helton. 80s Kid says, I have a DX2 66 megahertz PC from 1995 that has more memory than Biden.
Now that's impressive.
Gravitational Time Vortex says, restoring the IRS Act under subsection 6050Z. This would be the largest data mining exercise in U.S. history.
None familiar.
No, I'm not familiar either. I'll have to look into that. Ron Helton says, the current government is illegitimate. Prove me wrong. Gravitational Time Vortex.
I'm just going to give you evidence to support that claim.
Gravitational Time Vortex is on fire here. Communism is death by gun. Socialism is death by ballot box. And he also says, if you ain't clinging to the wing of a C-17, you ain't Afghan, Mr. Joe Biden. You addressed this one already here. She can't be her senator if she's illegal. Just deport that woman already. If you did that nonsense in Mexico, you'd go to jail. Gravitational Time Vortex says, when the number of illegals surpasses the number of legals, does it become their country? And are we all deemed illegal?
Interesting philosophical question. I posed that to the libertarians in the audience.
Ron Held says, oh my, the horror. Profanity on signs. At least those kids don't have an American bomb dropped on them. And then we got a big rash of the selling of the wares, but we're going to circle back for the rest of this here. We're going to talk about some of these. I got a couple quick hitters here to end this out, and then some surprise stupidity as well. What do I want to start with? Let's talk about this Texas school shooting. Let's do that one first. So just after we got off of after the Red Net show of last week, we had another situation where there was a school shooting. This one was in, I believe, Arlington, I'm sorry. The suspected Texas school shooter is in custody at this point. He has been taken into custody. He surrendered himself almost immediately after the event. But a lot of Twitter and a lot of left-wing Twitter is getting a little bit pissed off over the fact that he was able to raise $35,000 bail and be released within 24 hours. Some of them even comparing this to the Rittenhouse case. One of the other big details of this is, of course, that people were saying that this guy was being bullied, and that's why he was able to do this, which, that raises questions as to the legality of bringing a gun to school, to a government building, and also whether he was being bullied, what he was being bullied for, and whether he was doing this in self-defense or not. But what have you seen on this so far?
Well, what I've seen on it so far is I've seen the defenses come out. I have seen that his lawyers are claiming this was a case of self-defense. And so it's his family is that he was being bullied. Now, one misconception, I don't think that's an excuse. Learn how to fight, punch him in the face next time. That's my advice to anybody in the audience. Your kid's getting bullied at school. Teach him how to punch, and then that'll stop. But the one thing I have been seeing is misconceptions from people is that how is he able to get, especially from left-wing Twitter, is he was 18, how is he able to get a handgun? Is there a possession argument, an illegal possession argument there? As far as the federal code goes, you are not permitted to sell a gun to a person under the age of 21 years old. You are not permitted to purchase a gun if you are under the age of 21 years old. That being said, you are still allowed to possess a gun if you are 18, a handgun if you are 18 years old. You're still allowed to possess it. You're not allowed to buy it. So if someone, I don't know, is some legal wranglings there, as well as, did someone give it to you? That could be considered a straw purchase, all of that stuff. So there is some legal issues there, but that's generally how I understand it, is that the federal code says you can possess it, can't buy it, but you can possess it. The other thing that I've seen is the comparisons with Rittenhouse, is that some right-wingers have come out and said, if we're going to hold the principle on this, if we're going to say Rittenhouse is self-defense, then we're going to say, or we're going to have to say a kid getting his ass beat is also self-defense. We can talk about the gun possession in school part, which is another legal matter, but we also have to say that this would also be considered self-defense, because there is, I believe, a video of this or photos of him getting his ass beat before he shoots the guy. So he's getting his ass beat. And I understand where the principal argument is coming from. I do get that. But that's all I've seen on it so far.
I could see this as semi-defensive. And we could have the argument over escalation of force, over anything else like that. I don't know that I would have accepted the fact that he should have escalated the force that far, that quickly. But I wasn't in the situation.
Also, like I said, and we could talk about that. Like I said, teach your kids how to fight and let kids fight in school. And a lot of those problems would solve themselves. Obviously, you wouldn't get everyone, but a lot of those problems would solve themselves. If that kid knew how to fight, he wouldn't have thought to resort to a firearm, even if he had it in his possession. Because that's the last thing you want to do in that situation. People don't understand. It's using your gun defensively. Even me, I just brandished my firearm in a self-defense situation once, and I even got the cops called on me, and there was a lengthy investigation. Luckily, the cops it was the sheriff's department who was doing it, so they were a little bit more friendly than the Tucson Police Department. So, but people don't understand is that when you deploy that firearm, it's going to be a lengthy legal battle for you, no matter what, whether or not you were justified we're not. It's going to be a lengthy fight. So,
well, and a lot of people talked about it was. I saw a Twitter thread once. This was a while back over what do you consider to be the best gun for self-defense or home defense, and it was shotguns only. And they said, okay, semi-automatic shotgun with this, that, and the next thing, or possibly a breakaway shotgun, single shot, this, that, and the next thing. And one of the options was pump action. And I said, usually pump action because you can typically de-escalate a home invasion not by actually shooting somebody or brandishing it, but just that sound usually diffuses a lot of situations in a hurry.
Well, and this is the advice that I've heard. I've heard advice on that. Now, one thing that I can say on this is that when you deploy a firearm, you are accountable for every shot that leaves the barrel, or that leaves the muzzle. Every shot that's fired, you're 100% accountable for that. So you better not miss. Now, that being said, with shotguns and buckshot, you can be relatively untrained with a firearm, and you can deploy a shotgun buckshot relatively well. So that is something I recommend for anybody who doesn't really know firearms, doesn't know how to deploy a handgun or a rifle very well. Buy a shotgun for home defense. Do the Joe Biden, buy a shotgun. And yeah, that's what I would say. But on that, if someone breaks into your house, it's not just, racking a gun, but someone breaks into your house. This is the advice I give. And this is advice I've heard from shooting instructors is someone breaks in, you hear them break in, call 911, tell them you're being broken into, give them your address, put the phone on, but leave the call open, and then yell, "Get out of my house. I have a firearm and police are on their way." Usually that diffuses the situation. People get the hell out of your house because they don't want to deal with cops. They don't want to deal with you. So they'll leave.
Yeah. And I mean, even like I said from the beginning, even from the left, we're seeing this now where Crypto Lefty tweets out, Kyle Rittenhouse shoots 3 criminals in self-defense, bail, $2 million and no lawyers will represent him. Timothy Simpkins brings a gun to school, shoots 4 people, including a teacher, bail $25,000 and released in less than 24 hours. Which there are some differences to that too, because people didn't die in this particular shooting. It's just injuries as far as I know.
Yeah, and again, that's the other argument that here's the comparison is that Kyle Rittenhouse, if you look at the video, he deployed that firearm very efficiently. There's a point in the video that a lot of self-defense instructors look at is the point just before the last guy comes at it. He stops, he points the rifle towards him, and then stops and brings the rifle down a bit until he realizes that he's a threat again, and he brings the rifle back up and fires. He was very judicious in deploying that rifle. This student, however, was not, because, like I said, you're accountable for every round. He was obviously not judicious in deploying that gun against his target, so he hit bystanders because of that. So there is a legal argument there is that he didn't just shoot the threat; he also hit bystanders. So there's another problem there.
Yeah, and then I guess the whole "what if Kyle Rittenhouse was black" argument is out the fucking window too.
Oh man, that's always a fun comparison.
Did you see the jobs numbers this week?
Ugh.
Let's get to Edward.
But it's
Lawrence
good,
right
guys.
now.
It's
The
good
number is
news.
out. Edward, over to you in Washington.
Shut up, Fox News. Nobody likes you.
It's good news, guys. According to our great president, it's good news. We're on track. We're in a good place, even though every single economist has said, no, this is way behind where we need to be. We're kind of screwed right now for jobs.
Well, on Thursday, it actually looked like it was going to be good news. Jobless claims posted a sharp decline to 326,000. That is for initial claims. This reading from CNBC. Let me get that up here for you guys. First-time jobless claims post sharp decline to 326,000, better than expectations. So people aren't going in and filing for new unemployment anymore. It does look like continuing claims dropped 97,000 to 2.71 million continuing claims, but they're calling that a good number. They're actually saying the 97,000 was better than expected for continuing claims this month. They were expecting to have 344,000 initial claims, so the 326 is good news for them. But when we look back at the other side, the amount of jobs that were added to the economy, people who were actually hired for the first time, The Biden admin was expecting 500,000, 500,000 jobs, but they only got 194,000 this month. They got a downtick on the unemployment rate, but some of that is going to be people dropping off and moving over to welfare. But yeah, none of this is good news right now. What do you think?
So the big hits that they've taken as far as unemployment and stuff like that, unemployment claims, joblessness claims, and losses in industries include hospitality and travel. So, you had airlines, a lot of airlines lose workers over this vaccine stuff. You've had hotel chains lose workers over vaccine stuff and mask mandates, continuing mask mandates. You've had teachers walk off their job because they're tired of the vaccine stuff and mask stuff, especially against their students. They don't want to see that. And then you're also seeing the medical field. Obviously, New York, they lost 18,000 or 14,000 medical workers because they refused to get the vaccine. They just off the job all at once. So that obviously wasn't going to be a good a good jobs report just off of that. But the new employment the jobs creation thing, that is more concerning to me, because that means that people are not going out to look for work at all. They're choosing not to go out and look for work. And young people getting into the market, they're choosing just not to go look for their job or for a job because they don't think they can get one, or they can't get one for experience reasons, or because of vaccine status or whatever. So I do think it's a little more concerning than some people are treating it. Just because it's people who don't want to work are just not going out and working. So
yeah, I mean they're not in desperation for it either, which I don't care for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, I mean, with unemployment, I mean, people here, we knew people personally here who were making more money on unemployment than they were at their job, which was insane to me.
Yeah.
So it's obviously a big incentive for people to just not go to work.
Well, the medical field thing that you brought up too, that's interesting enough to me, because that actually won't affect the numbers that we just saw. So I'm more curious as to what kind of numbers we see coming up in October, now that all these people are being fired, because the ones in New York are not eligible for unemployment.
That was another thing. That was another part of that story that was particularly disturbing, is that we're going to fire all these people and we're not going to give them unemployment. But I guess that you do have a point there. So that is going to be something to look at for sure.
Well, I promised you 2 hours, and we're up on that mark here. I got a couple more quick hitters that I want to touch on. Do you want to grab those, or do you got to get out of here?
Nope, I'm good to go, man. I got nothing going on.
All right, so those are the jobs numbers. I want to talk about this Facebook thing for just a little bit here, because we saw this week that Frances Haugen, first on 60 Minutes and then in front of Congress, decided that she needed to talk about what was going on Facebook. But this also happened almost immediately after one of the biggest Facebook outages in history. 7 hours that nobody could access Facebook, WhatsApp, or Instagram, which means that our baby boomer predecessors got a lot more done this past Tuesday than, was it Tuesday or Monday? I think it was Monday, actually. Yeah, they got a lot more done on Monday than they've been able to do for quite some time.
That, or they were sitting on the couch jonesing.
I think bathroom breaks probably were a lot shorter through those 7 hours too.
Are you kidding me? No, there's still there's still phone games, man.
But almost immediately after the outage, we saw Frances Haugen. Like I said, she first went on to 60 Minutes and talked about how Facebook is misleading the public on progress against hate speech, violence, and misinformation. And then she went up in front of Congress as well to talk about this. Now, NPR gave us 4 key points from the Facebook whistleblower's testimony on Capitol Hill here. We're going to review these just briefly here. We're not going to go into huge detail on them because, honestly, I think this whole thing was a bunch of shit.
it was definitely an interesting, like it was an interesting story, and I was like, this is exactly what it is. It's a story. There wasn't really a huge amount of proof that she brought to bear in this testimony or in the testimony. So I was just a little bit confused as to why this was, so big. But like you said, it's most likely just a glow in the dark or PR stunt or for Facebook.
Yeah. Well, here are the 4 takeaways that NPR. I'm going to take them out of order. I'm going to bring this up on the screen here too. I'm going to take them out of order. I'm going to do them 1, 2, 4, and 3 because 3 is the big one, the big takeaway that we got to talk about this. Number 1, Haugen was an insider, making her a powerful critic. At Facebook, she studied how the social network's algorithm amplified misinformation and was exploited by foreign adversaries. She said that, or told Congress that Facebook consistently chose to maximize its growth rather than implement safeguards on its platform, just as it hid from the public and government officials internal research that illuminated the harms of Facebook products. And I want you to remember that as we talk about what this actually meant here. Remember that paragraph, because that, I think, is going to be the important one. Second takeaway, according to NPR, was research shows Facebook's coveted young users despite health concerns. Of particular concern to lawmakers Tuesday was the impact children by Instagram. Haugen released one Facebook study that found that 13.5% of UK teen girls in one survey said their suicidal thoughts became more frequent after starting on Instagram. Another leaked study found that 17% of teen girls say their eating disorders got worse after using Instagram. And 32% of girls said when they feel bad about their bodies, Instagram made them feel worse, Facebook researchers found, which was first reported by The Journal. And Marsha Blackburn got in on this too. The fourth takeaway says Haugen says Facebook broke the law. Lawyers have filed 8 complaints with the Securities and Exchange Commission focused on Facebook's public statements about issues including what Facebook knew about how organizers of the January 6th Selfie Fest used its platform, how effective it is at removing hate speech, and how Instagram makes body issues worse. According to Haugen's legal team, Facebook executives, including Mark Zuckerberg, misstated and omitted key details about what was known about Facebook and Instagram's ability to cause harm. Attorneys for Haugen allege that Facebook violated U.S. securities law by lying to investors. But this is the big one, number 4, which is number 3 for us, or for NPR. Democrats and Republicans are actually united on regulating Facebook. That's the big one right there.
Well, the thing is and I've heard Robert Barnes over on the Viva Barnes channel. He talked about this, is that big tech was a tool that was propped up by the government. That was what it originally was, and that was what it was always intended as, is a tool for the government to use to spy on citizens, to get information out of citizens through more constitutional means, because they're not doing it directly. But now big tech has gotten huge. They've gotten to the point where they've got a lot of monetary power and a lot of informational power to bring to bear against the government. And that scares them. That scares a lot of the statists, because now their tool is turning against them. The dog's off the chain. And that's really the reason for the turn against big tech on both sides of the aisle. Now, going back to the research part of this, which was an interesting read for sure, because it's something that I've heard a lot of people talk about, is the social media age and what kind of detriment does that have on children. And I think it's a huge impact, and it's one that we're really ignoring. Like you said, it's suicidal thoughts, eating disorders, all of these things were exacerbated under or with social media. And that's because you take all of the problems that you have with high school, bullying, the talking behind your back, the rumors being spread. You take that and you amplify that by millions. And how is a kid supposed to deal with that? I think about, because I didn't have social media in high school, even though it was there, I didn't have it. I can't even fathom what my high school would be like if I was dealing with social media posts and things like that.
Yeah, and I mean,
so it's definitely something we need to talk about. I'm happy it's there. It's just I don't know if it's going to amount to much.
One of my older sisters and I talked about this when we were up for, what the hell was I up there for? I think it was her mom's funeral. We talked about this, and she's got 2 kids in that age group, but her brother, her biological brother, because she's not actually my sister, but her biological brother and we got bullied in high school. But when we went over, usually to his house, because I could smoke there, when we went over to his house, it was over. We didn't deal with it anymore. But now you're right, with social media, with the smartphones and everything else. Once you're out of school, the bullying doesn't stop. The cyberbullying out there, you still have the connection out there. So yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying with that. It stopped when we left the building. When Aaron and I left the building, it was all over until the next day. We didn't have to deal with it anymore. We could go home and play video games or play football in the yard or something else like that, and we didn't have to talk about it again until the next day.
Yeah, and then the big problem, or one of what you're talking about right there is you had a way to decompress. So did I. After school especially in high school, I had a job. I'd come home from, my sophomore year. That's when I got my first job, my sophomore year. I'd come home from school and I'd go immediately to work. Mm-hmm. I had a way to decompress and take my mind off of things that happened at school, things people said to me, whatever. But now these kids, they don't have, that's happening, or they're doing that less and less, finding ways to decompress, finding activities to do outside of school, after school. And instead they're turning to video games and social media and getting on with more people online. And they're interacting with more and more people, and that's only making the problem worse. This is just my opinion. This is not my professional psychological opinion, FYI. But I think there's research to support it, though. That's the thing.
But one of the big things that came out of this that I did want to make sure that we touched on with this was that Disclosed TV reported almost immediately after the hearing was that Facebook has called for new standard rules for the internet after the whistleblower hearing.
New standard rules. That's interesting.
For the not just for big tech, small tech, but for the entire internet. Director of Policy Communications, Lena Pietsch, has issued an official response to the allegations made by former Facebook product manager Frances Haugen. Today, a Senate Commerce Subcommittee held a hearing with a former product manager at Facebook who worked for the company for less than 2 years, had no direct reports, never attended a decision point meeting with C-level executives, and testified more than 6 times to not working on the subject matter in question. Pietsch said, "We don't agree with her characterization of the many issues she testified about. Despite all this, we agree on one thing. It's time to begin to create a standard set of rules for the internet. It's been 25 years since the rules of the internet have been updated. Instead of expecting the industry to make societal decisions that belong to legislators, it's time for Congress to act."
Well, this might upset the porn is art crowd, but we'll have to see on that one. But no, I do, like I said before, is that this was a foreseeable outcome if you understand the relationship between government and social media. Is they were created as a tool. Government helped them get started. They helped the tech industry rise to its prominence. And now that the tech industry has such power, has so much sway, so much influence, now the government is scared of them. They don't want them to be like that. Now they have to figure out a way to try and to regulate them and to turn the public against them, essentially, so that they're okay with it. Now, that's where the glow in the dark part of the story comes in, is this chick Fed backed, or was she spurred on by the feds to do this so that they had an excuse? Or was this just a PR stunt by Facebook that they're going to get out of, like they've gotten out of a lot of hearings?
Well, I do want to touch on that too, because this is Frances Haugen's Twitter page here. Joined October 2021, which means that she's been on Twitter for a total of 11 days. Now, at the time that I looked at this the first time after her hearing, it was reported that she was only on there for 48 hours. I cannot independently verify that. I cannot confirm. But she has been on there for a maximum of 11 days. And she has 69.9 thousand followers and a blue check mark.
Ooh, see, that screams corporate glow in the dark. That's what that screams. Because typically, even Twitter's not going to be friendly to someone who's speaking out even against a competitor, because it's speaking out against all of big tech. So that screams corporate, corporate glow in the dark more than Fed glow in the dark. So that is interesting for sure. Yeah, no, this is sketchy, guys. It talks about a lot of interesting things for sure, but I wouldn't put too much stock in it because it's one of those two things. It's either Fed glow in the dark or corporate glow in the dark, one of the two.
So, well, that's what we're seeing off of that. And where this goes off of this, I got one more here that I just want to touch briefly on because I don't have a lot of material on it. But this is this thing with the FBI and the school board meetings. Now, I've been telling people to do local government more often. Go run for these offices because I don't know how it is in Arizona. But in Wisconsin, when you go to the polling place, you have your challengers for the presidency, Donald J. Trump, Joseph R. Biden Jr., and Joe Jorgensen. Then you've got your House seat, which would be Brian Style for me, and then there was a generic Democrat running against him. The Senate, if applicable, and those all have usually a bunch of people running in those seats there. But then you get down to mayor, county commissioner, county board members, and those are running unopposed. So you should always be running into some of these seats here. But these parents who have probably never been to a school board meeting before are also going to the school boards for the first time. They're going to the meetings. They're expressing some of their grievances. Well, this week, at the advisement of the president, the DOJ has decided that they are going to investigate threats against school board members, reading from U.S. News. The Department of Justice will mobilize the FBI in response to a spike in harassment, intimidation, and threats of violence against school board members across the country. In a memo released Monday evening, Attorney General Merrick Garland, who is supposed to be the miracle moderate that was supposed to be on the Supreme Court, by the way, directed the FBI and U.S. attorneys' offices to meet in the next 30 days with federal, state, and local law enforcement leaders to outline strategies for addressing the incidences which have become more frequent and more volatile in recent months.
Where to begin with this? First off, when I first heard of this story and I first looked into it, it seemed like a joke. The school board or the school board union, or forget what you call it, but sending a letter to the president, essentially asking for help and labeling parents, not really labeling them, but saying what they're doing is approaching domestic terrorism and things like that and asking for help. I thought it was a joke. And I was like, okay, I don't even think the federal government would go that far, because you look at any one of these school board meetings and I've seen one that might be considered a credible threat. And that was directed at one person, not at the school or the school board itself. It was directed at one singular person. And that was direct threats from a crowd to a school board member. I've seen one example of that. The rest, it's akin to a rowdy sports bar. That's what it's akin to, is a lot of people yelling, or somebody might throw something, people shouting and cussing and insulting these people, and for good reason. I mean, but now I don't see how the feds are going to be able to get away with this.
This screams of intimidation to me.
Around. Yeah, it's sketchy legally, because if they declare, they can't outright do that. That would be a mistake for them. If they declare anti-vax, anti-critical race theory stuff, if they declare that domestic terrorism, if they declare that kind of stuff from those groups domestic terrorism, that's going to make a lot of people angry, including moderates, because a lot of moderates are against critical race theory. They're against this vaccine mandate stuff and against mask mandates. And that's a huge problem. And you're also going to upset the key demographic that no side should ever upset, soccer mom America. People don't remember, or people won't know this, or a lot of people don't know this. Soccer mom America, or the housewife America, was responsible for prohibition. They were the ones who were the driving force behind that. So just keep that in mind. But I am inclined to agree with you on that. It does seem like intimidation more than anything, because I don't think they could actually get away with investigating this as domestic terrorism. It would cause a lot of problems for them.
Well, and anecdotally, and I'm not saying because this is not the rule or anything, but Not where I live, but probably I would say an hour east of here in Burlington. They actually had BLM coming in to the school board meetings and intimidating the school board there, and nothing was done about that. I forget what the context was about it. But yeah, BLM actually went to the Burlington school, which I mean is not an inner city school by any stretch of the imagination. Burlington is probably, I think, a 10,000 person town.
Oh, of course, and that's the thing, though, is like I could understand it. I could understand labeling Antifa or BLM. I could understand labeling them terrorist groups because they have risen to that level of violence, especially on a property scale and things like that, to try and force or through their own political ends. So I could understand that. On this, though, I think it's kind of a incorrect comparison because this is parents directly confronting, as we said before, directly confronting public officials as they are inclined to, or as they are or have the right to do, and as they should be inclined to do. When you see a problem at your schools, you should be voicing these concerns. And to have school boards flat out saying, no, you're wrong. We have the right to teach your kids whatever we want without your say. You guys are domestic terrorists. You guys are threatening us. You guys have no say in how your child is raised when they're at our school. I think that's a dangerous path to go down.
Yeah, I did just find the article too, by the way, because I wanted to verify this. Because I heard it on the radio the other day, and it sounded familiar to me when this was first announced. Dan O'Donnell over here in one of the Milwaukee stations pointed out that this happened, and we should be calling the FBI and these people. And I'm actually waiting for it to archive because I have an ad blocker up, and I can't read it because I don't like watching ads on my computer. But it looks like the BLM protesters shut down a Burlington school board meeting amid calls to have an anti-racist curriculum. And this was November, I think, 10th of 2020.
Like I said, if you can't voice your concerns about these things at these meetings, again, this is like putting a pot on a boiling or sealing a pot on a boiling lid. Eventually it's going to blow up. You start taking away these people's outlets to voice their concerns. You start taking that away little by little, and it's got nowhere to go until it boils over. And I don't like it. Like I said, I don't like it. I think it's not going a good place.
Yeah. But I mean, if what they're doing at these school boards now is domestic terrorism, then what happened there last year? And this was, let me get the date off this officially. November 10th of 2020. Yeah. On November 10th of 2020, if what we're seeing out of these parents who are, some of them are pushing the line, I think, with language, but nobody's made an actual physical threat, then what we saw in Burlington falls under the same definition.
Yeah, like I said, of the examples they included in this story, there is one that I would consider a credible threat, and that was a credible threat against one person, and that would be investigated by local police. That wouldn't be a Fed thing. This was a direct. There's something that could be considered a direct threat to a school board member. Singular. It wasn't to all of them. It was just to one of them, and it was by a crowd of angry parents outside of the school board meeting. I couldn't find any other examples that rose to that level. It was all just mostly cursing and insulting and things like that, shouting, and nothing ever got physical either.
Right.
I've seen no physical violence out of these either. So, sketchy.
I have one more story for you here, and this is one that's not on the document. There's no talking point on the document for this. And that's because we are doing the weekly incident of surprise stupidity this week. And with your military background, I thought you would enjoy this one very much. So we'll put this over on the screen. You'll have a 10-second off of this, but you'll already hear me announcing it as we go. Reading from The Blaze today. Navy nuclear engineer and wife arrested on espionage charges for trying to sell submarine secrets to foreign power by way of a peanut butter sandwich.
Square the circle for me, Jay. Make that make sense.
A U.S. Navy nuclear engineer and his wife have been charged with trying to sell nuclear submarine secrets to what they thought was a foreign power. The couple were charged with espionage charges after they were accused of sharing sensitive data through a peanut butter sandwich. Jonathan Tebby, 42, and his wife Diana were arrested in West Virginia on Saturday by the FBI and Naval Criminal Investigative Service. The couple from Annapolis, Maryland, allegedly sold information known as restricted data concerning the designs of nuclear-powered warships to a person they believed was a representative of a foreign power, according to the Justice Department. The espionage investigation began in December of 2020 when an FBI official received a package sent to a foreign country that contained Navy documents, a desire to begin a covert relationship, and instructions on using encrypted communications, the New York Post reported. After an undercover agent reportedly sent $10,000 in cryptocurrency to Jonathan Tebby as a good faith payment, the couple allegedly traveled to West Virginia in June. That's when Jonathan presented a peanut butter sandwich at a prearranged dead drop location where Diana was supposed to look out. Allegedly inside the peanut butter sandwich was an SD card wrapped in plastic that contained the restricted data related to submarine nuclear reactors. After receiving the sensitive data, the undercover FBI agent sent Jonathan Tebby a $20,000 cryptocurrency payment. Then the former Navy nuclear engineer sent the agent a decryption key for the SD card.
I mean, on the online communications, did the guy's username say Russian_spy? Was that what his username was? Was it at real Chinese spy over here on Twitter? Is that what the? Because come on, man. Jeez. One, here's some advice that is pretty apt for this. Right? Never in writing, always in cash. Thank you, Robert Barnes. Again, shout out to Robert Barnes. Never in writing, always in cash. Meaning they should never have talked to, and if they were going to do this, don't talk to people online. Talk to them in person. I'm not saying you should go and rip off the government secrets. What I'm saying is that these people were stupid. They went about it the wrong way, and they got caught. It's kind of a movie way of doing the dead drop too. That's what's funny about, or the funniest part about it. I'm gonna put an SD card inside of a peanut butter sandwich. Oh, that's brilliant. Ugh. Can't make this stuff up. It's too stupid to not be or to be fake, man. Oh my god.
That's why it's surprising.
And it sounds the funny part about it is that it sounds like an onion. It reads like an Onion article or Babylon Bee article. That's what it reads like. Yeah. But what's the saying? Yesterday's Babylon Bee is today's real news.
Apparently.
Oh man, that is just wild. That's all I got to say on that is just don't be stupid. People never in writing, always in cash. If you're going to do something like that, do it in person.
All right, let's do live chat and let's get out of here for the day.
Sounds good to me.
What do we got here? Wow, we've been going at this for a while.
Yes, we have.
Ron Helton says all gun laws are illegal. Ben Wild does not own any guns. Honk honk.
Neither do I.
Ron Helton says if you get your bell rung hard enough, you will escalate guaranteed.
That's another thing we didn't really talk about is that, in a stressful situation, it is hard for people to think clearly. So you don't think about, the repercussions of what's going to happen afterward. You just go for the solution and whatever happens, happens.
Ron Helton says best home defense, AK-47 full auto. No, that makes a mess.
Yeah, that is messy.
Ben Wild says never bring a skateboard to a gunfight. Ron Helton says, did he hit bystanders or were they trying to disarm him? I haven't seen the entire video. I haven't either, so...
From what it looks like in the video, it looks like he engages his target, and I'm speaking on instructor terms and kind of professional terms or gun guy terms. It looks like he deploys the firearm, deploys it against his target. He's firing. It looks like the target drops a little bit or tries to move out of the way, and as he's trying to track that target to put more rounds down range, he hits bystanders standing in the background. I don't believe you can see the teacher get hit. I think you can see a couple of the students get hit, but I don't think you can see the teacher.
Let's see, what else do we have here? Biden is like that dude that promises chicks a solid 9 and shows up with a 3-inch game. That kind of stays floppy. Ron Helton says, I think that these must be planned employee reductions. People don't trust hospitals as much anymore. Same for the military. They need to riff a bunch of people now that warmongering is down. Let's see. Ron Helton says 2 hours already. That went by fast. Ben Wild says, in real news, creepy clown sightings are down this year on the East Coast. Sir Totes is here. Welcome in, Sir Totes.
I remember what Ben Wild's talking about. I don't know if you remember all that. The rash of creepy clown videos that came out around about around 2016. It was around Trump's election. Trump's campaign. Yeah. Oddly enough, it was all in like left-wing states and stuff like that, in countries that have very, very strict gun laws. So that would have happened around Arizona. People would have been getting shot.
Let's see. Ben Wild says, now I'm not saying creepy clowns and Obama aren't connected, but do the fucking math.
You've got a point. You've got a point there.
Ron Helton says, I heard from a friend today, Obama is in the background pulling FJB's strings. Let's see. Facebook, won't someone please think of the children? Same old tired line to justify government intervention. Let's see. Chilaga says, hilarious. Facebook is the official scapegoat for the MKs. Ben Wild says, I tend to think we have a creepy clown in the White House. Certainly Harris is the Joker.
Go home, Mom. You haven't had enough to drink.
Ron Helton says, you as the parent have the responsibility to regulate your own children.
Exactly. And that's the thing is like, I don't think I'm going to if I have kids, I don't think I'm going to let them have any electronics whatsoever for a long time. I don't think I'm going to let them do that. Go outside.
My cousins, my youngest cousins on my mom's side, none of them had a Facebook or anything until they were all 18 and all out of high school. They weren't allowed to have, I don't know if they weren't allowed or just weren't interested, but none of them did. No, after they all turned 18, then we ran across each other. They were suggested for me and I added all of them, but they didn't until later on.
I think it's a good idea, to be honest. I think it's something you should keep kids away from for as long as possible.
Ron Helton says, I think the same thing was said about rock and roll music in the day, depressed kids, suicidal, anything they don't like just to put a bad label on it. Some kids are prone to mental illness and being suicidal. Parents need to recognize that and stop asking others to deal with their parenting load.
No, to a point, I do agree with you. I do agree with that. And I do think parents should take an active step in trying to keep social media out of their kids' hands. A good way to do that is to not get them smartphones when they're in high school. Don't do that. But at the same time, it's not just kids. There are adults who have problems with social media. For some, it becomes an addiction. They can't put it down. Constantly on their phone. So,
indeed, it is. What else do we have here? Ben Wild says he'd come home from school and have to tend to livestock and cleaning out milk pails. Yeah, I remember that. Ben Wild says apparently saying send nudes on Facebook is cyberbullying according to Facebook community standards because I got a ban for that. Apparently, by the way, if you're in Mensa and you ask a Mensa member to send nudes and they say what for, are they really Mensa? I fucking think not. Ben Wild says, I wouldn't follow her to Chipotle if she had a double meat burrito. You know how it is in Arizona. It's fucking dry heat, hot, that makes your hair do the weird static thing. Ron Helton says, when Johnson was running as the Libertarian candidate, it took weeks before they gave him a blue check mark. Ben Wild says, I don't have a blue check on Twitter. Of course, I don't ever go there. El Zucchini Grande is my Twitter. Everybody go follow El Zucchini Grande. Ron
Ben
says,
Wild seems like a funny guy, so I think that'd probably be worth a follow if you have a Twitter.
Ron Helton says, I'm barred from posting until I delete one of my tweets, which they have already censored. Bunch of censorship monkeys. That was before last Turkey Day. I remember that, because I remember he's talking about that. Ron Helton's been here for a long time. I think we adopted Ron Helton from a Steffi Cole episode. Way back in the Eddsworlds days.
He has been here a long time. That's for sure.
Ron Helton. One of the biggest fans of the Turn Some Pages Productions Network. Yeah, I think you're right, actually. Ben Wild says, I'd seen this one school board meeting where this guy was wearing a camo hat and a buffalo plaid flannel. He was kind of sketch. Question, is it wrong to drink beer at a school board meeting?
I think not. As a matter of fact, isn't that standard procedure up in Wisconsin?
I think so. I believe you are correct. Chilaga 1984 says, Burlington, Wisconsin, hometown of Tony Romo. That is correct. And believe me, they will remind you of that on every opportunity they can. Not so much anymore.
That guy spent half his career injured. I don't know why you'd be proud of that.
Well, so did Cutler, but we don't say that around Chilaga. Ron Helton says, BLM terrorists. Nah, they're mostly peaceful protesters. They good. Ben Wild says, probably not the time to bring it up, but Frito-Lay made bank on Hispanic stereotype in the Frito Bandito, so fuck you chips. Then he says, and do we need to talk about Bucky Badger, or is it just fuck 'em Bucky? I don't know. I don't know enough about... I don't follow UW politics, so I have no idea.
Oh, UW. Okay.
I know they took that rock out of UW, but that's all I know.
I heard about that story. It's so stupid. Another symbolic gesture that means nothing.
Ben Wild says, when peanut butter is the currency, then the dollar... Wait a minute, West Virginia has a navy and a submarine fleet? A peanut butter sandwich dead drop in West Virginia. Super spies here.
Oh yeah, totally, man. These guys they're professional. Professional. Reads like a bad movie.
Ron Helton says, amateurs, every good spy knows it is ham on rye sandwich for passing secrets. Ben Wild contests that and says, tuna and cheese on brioche. Helton says, it sounds hilarious. The military does send operatives out to test soldiers in bars and such. Had that happen when I was in training.
Yeah, they're called they're minders. I had them at Fort Campbell because of the unit I was attached to at that point in time. Yeah, they would just hang out around bars, around restaurants and stuff like that. Try and test you and ask you questions and try and get you to violate OPSEC and then they would reveal themselves. So
MK Ultra says, I remember these clowns. IT remake came out around the same time. Or It remake, I'm sorry.
Was it around that time?
Oh, it was. Yeah, it was. Ron Helton says, give your kids computers that run on Linux with no graphical interface and no internet connection, then they will develop some skills. MK Ultra says, are they playing learning games? What's Linux?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. That is a very good question. I don't think anybody who operates Linux knows what Linux is.
Could you imagine how much seawalls I would be twitching right now? Not that anybody on screen would be seeing it because, the big mirrored glasses.
Yeah.
Ron confirms, yes, we did adopt Ron Helton from a Steffi Cole stream when she was on Ed's World. So thank you for sticking around, Ron. You've brightened up the chat numerous times. He says, I try to follow all the Freedom Scoop gang as much as possible. I have lousy internet. Well, we are turning some pages now. We are not Freedom Scoop anymore.
Well, hey,
all the people
dude,
are the
you
same.
need to stop. You need to stop operating on that internet modem from 1999.
Let's see. Linux type operating systems are used a lot to run internet servers. It's a more secure operating system. Ben Wild says military guys hang around at bars say it ain't so, and Ron Helton will get last word tonight and says there are many flavors of it. I got my first taste of Linux from using Unix, which was developed by Bell Labs, and that is it. That's all the chat we're going to do tonight. So if you get your messages in finally after this, they're not going to get read out loud. Where is my music? Where's my music? Let's get out of here. Is my volume down, or am I going to blast your eardrums out? Guess my volume is down.
No, I got decent headphones for that, so.
All right, so with that, we are going to head out of here for the day. Thank you, everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat. The lurkers, the listeners, the people who had something to say, the people that just watched, the new people. We saw a couple new names in here as well, so thank you guys all for that. This has been a great stream, and welcome to the podcast circuit. Hopefully we can bring you back for a little bit more of that. Before we head out of here, of course, if you want to finish the conversation with me, you can find me in the Discord that you found all throughout the live chat throughout the night, or the Gilded as well. You can go find it there. And find me on Twitter. That is at EdsBlog Twitter with a 1 in place of the I. Go check me out there, finish the conversation, or a number of other places that are linked in the description as well. So go and check all of those out, and make sure you go check out the Porch Boys, the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, the Freckles and Brit Show, and a new show that'll be coming up, which still is top secret here, coming up on the Turn Some Pages Productions Network. Go and check that out. Bookmark the page. We still got a little ways to go on our financial leanings, but we will definitely go and check that out and get that moving here. If you want to finish the conversation with my guest, Saint, tell them how they can find you.
I'm in the Discord all the time, both the Porch Boys and Ed's World. So if you want to have a conversation, pop into voice and I will talk to you. If you want to @ me and we can have a conversation in the text chats, I'm open to any conversation you want to have.
He's an over-the-road trucker. He gets lonely sometimes, so do make sure you guys go back and do that and check him out.
All the time, guys.
All right, and with that, we're going to head out of here for the night. And as the last words I always say are, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Saint, lead everybody out with some last words.
I don't have anything.
Take care, everybody.
Have a good night, guys.